Are you nervous?
Very.
Are you actually?
I would say I'm nervous though, yeah.
I think that's natural.
Yeah, I think so. Especially if you've never done it.
This is your first podcast ever?
Yeah.
It's funny, you were telling me, like, before you got on, it was just like, you're like, man, I'm not some, like, you know, big name that, like, people are going to want to listen to, but, man, that doesn't mean that, like, you don't have an amazing story.
Yeah.
Some of the best, I think some of the most interesting conversations can come from normal people.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when we're doing podcasts, you know, we try to get some big names in there. Like, I'm trying to line up one with like Dave Owens for next week. But it's like, dude, it doesn't have to always be some big name.
I've thought that for a while too. There's so many people that have interesting stories.
Move your mic a little closer. Yeah, there you go.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Yeah. That have interesting stories.
For
that
sure.
Are, you know, not nobodies, but not a lot of people know about.
Yeah.
So.
And you have, in my opinion, just like of our friends, one of the most unique stories, which we'll get into later. It's you've gone. How old are you? 25.
25. Yeah.
You've gone through a lot of things in this world that no 25-year-old should go through. Yeah. In my opinion. Yeah. Not that you had any control over it, but you know, dude, I think that your story makes it your story. It's what makes you unique. Like it's,
you know, people go through stuff, but you know, I think it's just timing. Yeah. You know, so timing was crazy.
Yeah. And I want to, we'll get into that story later.
Yeah.
I want to start off on a lighter note because it's like I was telling you earlier, it's way easier to start off. And I've you know, we're kind of new to the podcast. We're actually doing like a legit schedule now. Like we're making it a real thing.
Really?
People have enjoyed it. So we want to continue to do that for them.
Yeah, that's smart.
And put more time into it. And I'm still learning this podcast thing. And I've learned that if you start off on a really serious note,
it's kind of rough.
It's hard to then change it to be like, all right, let's joke around now.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're going to joke around first, and then we'll get into to your story later. But
sweet. The
reason I think that you have a good story is like, I think that it can impact a lot of people that listen to it.
Yeah. I mean, when all the stuff that we'll talk about later happened, I knew that if people heard it, it would be something that people, probably a lot of people, maybe not relate to directly, but they'll be able to relate to it to some extent.
Yeah, and I've never really heard the full story. Like I know the nuts and bolts of it, but I don't really know the full thing. Yeah. But so I wanted to start off. Obviously, I guess I haven't introduced you yet. So Jason Whitlow, who, if you guys have watched any of our videos, you've probably seen at some point. You've been on all of our Dode stuff.
Yep.
We originally met and did a video. Was it 3 years ago now?
It's been like,
right?
3.5 years or something like that.
Up in Ohio. Yeah. It's my first time hunting Ohio. Yep. The episode is the heaviest whitetail we've ever killed on YouTube. And that deer was so freaking big, dude.
Yeah, and still probably the biggest, at least in Ohio, I would think. I didn't see the upside down buck, but I did see Kimbo, and I thought Kimbo, when you showed me trail camera pictures, I was like, that deer's gonna be bigger.
Yeah.
But body wise, I don't think he was.
No, he wasn't, and I think he was a big body, you know.
Yeah.
250s.
Yeah, probably 250, 260.
Which towers over a normal southern deer, but for what some of those deer in Ohio grow to, I mean,
silly. It's crazy.
He was not a huge bodied deer.
No, not at all. I mean, he looked big on camera just because I guess he was real stocky.
Yeah.
But when I got up on him, I was surprised at how much smaller it was compared to the one you killed with me. And then and other bucks that I've killed. I killed probably a 300 plus pounder in 22.
Yeah.
And same thing. It's just like the bodies are just insane.
Even Kimbo and the upside down buck were comparable body wise.
Okay.
They were not huge bodied deer.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just because they were so freaking old that
probably
they were kind of past their prime or whatever. But anyway, so yeah, that's kind of how we met. Was you were in the urban game up north in Ohio. We won't say cities or anything like that, but we'll get into. Well, I guess we met, and this is part of your story and how you became friends with us, which I think is cool. Slade sent you a DM on TikTok.
Dude, yes. So I moved to Ohio, and I wasn't really wasn't big into the urban thing. I was doing it a little bit in Virginia in a small town, just because they opened the season earlier. It wasn't because I was trying to kill some giant bugs. But when I moved to Ohio, I was checking out public land, and I eventually, I was seeing these deer by the house or by the apartment, and I was like, man, this is ridiculous. And so I started knocking on doors, and I got one spot that year, and I had like a 170, probably like 3 150s, multiple 140s, 130s. But I took a video. I passed this ridiculous deer that I should never have passed. Yeah, and Slade saw it. I put it on TikTok, and it when I say blew up, it got like probably 70,000 views. Yeah. And Slade was one of the people, and he commented on it and then DM'd me, and we started talking, and he invited me down to hog hunt and everything. But yeah, that's how we hooked up, was through him. So
yeah, and it's like to see what it's all led to.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
The deep friendships and just like from just you posting a TikTok, and it's wild to think like if you didn't post that TikTok, we'd never be friends. Nope. We'd never be talking right now. We never would have become as. You're a huge part of our friend group.
Yeah,
and it's
absolutely. Like I have so many friends. I think about it a lot. Like just because I just was chilling in my apartment, I was like, man, let's post this on TikTok. Yeah. And I posted it, and and then from there it was like the next 3 years have been crazy. The people that I've got to meet, like the friends that, people I've become friends with, it's just insane. Yeah. Yeah. Insane.
So you got into the urban game up north in Ohio, and I came to visit you. Yeah. Do you think we can say that city, or do you think we should not?
What happened?
Where we killed the big 300-pound deer, where we saw the chase and stuff.
I probably wouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah, because I know there's locals that will get pretty.
Yeah. Okay. We won't. So it's just it's a city that's at least in my circle, maybe commonly referred to as the armpit of America. Yeah. And if you live up there and you know what city we're talking about, I'm sorry.
It is what it is.
It's not Columbus, by the way. Yeah. People would probably, but it's not.
No.
So I go to visit Jason, and again, like we don't know each other, really.
We've had extensive phone conversations, but we've never in person met.
Yeah. And so I had been up there was that the first night we were there?
If you're talking about the chase, yes, that was the first night. Yeah, that was the first night that was the first night. You had just got off the plane like probably 4 hours.
And we went and door knocked that day.
We went and door knocked. I picked you up from the airport, and we went straight to door knocking.
So we got a handful of spots, and then we are headed home. It's just after dark, like just after sunset. Yep. And we're rolling through this like little town, and there was a hill, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a hill.
They came over the hill, and this it was a truck, wasn't it?
It was a truck, yeah. Yeah.
A smaller truck?
Yeah, small truck, and there was just stores, like buildings, commercial real estate all down the side. Yeah. And 35. It was 35 mile per hour.
And maybe I'm exaggerating in my mind, but like they crested this hill, and like in my head I remember this truck like getting air because they were like hauling ass so fast. But
it was insane.
Maybe they didn't. But this truck comes flying over this hilltop. I've been in this city with Jason for like 3 hours at this point. Yep. We did get a couple spots earlier that day. We're headed back to his apartment. Truck comes flying over this hilltop, and we're like, holy crap. Like, what are they doing? And then all of a sudden, did we see the spike strips first?
I think we saw, I don't know if we saw the spike strips first, but I did see this. I know I saw the spike strips before he hit them, but I don't think it was first before we saw the truck. We might have seen them before we saw the cops.
And we just didn't realize what was really happening.
Yeah, I don't think we realized what was going on.
Yeah, so we passed this cop, and I remember it now as we're talking about it. Like we didn't really know what he was doing, but now we know what he was doing. Because as we drove by this cop and this truck comes flying over this hill, we see this cop chuck out these spike strips, blows the tires off this truck. And dude, how many cop cars were behind the truck?
It had to be directly behind him, probably 10. And I bet within 30 seconds, there was probably another 10 to 20. It had to have been 20 to 30 cops.
It was like the entire squad.
The whole city. Yeah. The whole city was after these people. It was great.
And so we're just bebopping down and see this scene unfold. So truck flies over this hill, cop deploys spike strips, blows out the tires, truck loses control and tries to turn right, if I remember. and then just slams into the side of this brick building.
Right into the building. And I remember looking, he passed us, and I remember looking in the rearview mirror, like the side mirror, and I just saw the truck just go straight into the building. Yeah. I was like, dude, that truck just crashed.
And I remember being like, dude, turn around, we got to see this.
Yeah. We turn around. I had my binos in the car, and you pick the binos up, and you're like looking through the binos, and then you hand them to me, and I look, and this dude's sitting on the curb. Yeah. And I don't even remember this, and blood's like running down his forehead.
Oh yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. Yep. And there was a girl that jumped out of the passenger seat of the car. Honestly, like, it's pretty amazing no one was killed.
100%. Yeah, I thought immediately when I saw it, I was like, somebody had to have died. There's no way.
And then some girl jumped out of the passenger seat, took off running.
Yep.
Police sent the canine after her, and that German Shepherd tackled that lady.
Yep.
That was my first 3 hours, meeting you, door knocking. Previous to that day, I had been cussed out by like a 90-year-old woman.
That was that day too.
It was the same day.
I think it was the same day.
Kind of unlike any other verbal abuse that I've ever had in my life.
That's great.
Awesome. On the way home, see that scene unfold. Yep. And that was kind of our first experience hanging out with each other. I'm kind of curious to hear, like, you've been doing the urban game now for several years.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, I mean, I've got countless stories from over the years. Things just happen. I'm curious, like, what stories you have in mind that you've experienced from your side of the suburban stuff.
Most of my stuff comes from like knocking. So we had the experience with the 90-year-old lady, which was awesome. She came out just turned up, screaming every racial slur she could think of at you. That was great. And then I had one that was really, really bad. And I knocked on this guy's door. It was a good area. It still is a good area. I know there's some really good bucks around there. And I knocked on this guy's door, and it was like this older, like Italian white guy. And he, we started talking pretty early on. He was like, yeah, you're not going to hunt. But we just kept talking to him because my buddy who was knocking with me knew the guy. And it got like dark quick. He started talking about like really, really racist stuff. Like N-word this, N-word that. It was
at y'all, or just well,
he's like, so he was like, I had this kid come up, and he knocked on the door, and it was an African American, and he just like, he's telling us, he's like, yeah, I just told that, it got bad, and he's talking about like having a gun, like he's gonna shoot the guy, and the kid, all the kid wanted to know was like, the guy lived in a really nice house, and the kid was just looking for advice on how to become like successful in the business world. And for some reason it led him to this house, and this dude was oh my gosh, it was insane. And me and my buddy Tommy were just looking at each other, we're like, bro, we got to get out of here. And this dude, he wouldn't let us go. He just kept talking and talking, and the longer he talked, the worse it got. It was insane. I couldn't believe it. Being from the South, honestly, like, I had never heard something like that. And then I'm up north, and you're hearing stuff like that, like, this is insane. Even up here, like, it was crazy. It was insane.
Dude, there's a lot of houses that I've like driven down the driveways of, and I just get like a really bad, in my stomach, like a bad gut feeling, and I turn around.
Yeah.
It's happened several times where, I don't know if it's just like, I don't even know if it's anything I'm seeing in particular that's just alarming me, but like, there's a handful of times where in my gut I've been like, dude, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah, me too.
And I've, turned around and left because, dude, I think part of that has to do with like, I've had a gun. The scariest, I know I've told this story before, but the scariest door knocking incident I've had was, I wasn't even asking to deer hunt. I was asking to shed hunt.
Yeah.
Have you heard this story?
I think so. Yeah, I think I know what you're gonna say.
And it's like this older couple, and it's like in March on like a Sunday, and I'm friends with their neighbor, so I looked around my neighbor's property and didn't see any sheds. Then I go to their house and I knock on their door on like a Sunday afternoon. Yeah, I'm in normal clothes, and I go up, knock on the door, and I see them inside walking around, and I could tell they're elderly.
Yeah.
And so I walk back, and I'm standing back at the door, 10, 15 feet away from the door, just kind of waiting on them to answer whatever. And I think maybe I rang the doorbell, and I don't know if, sometimes you can't hear if the doorbell works.
Yeah.
So if I go up the first time and I hit the doorbell, I'll stand back. If they don't answer, I'll go and knock just to make sure that, they know that someone's at the door. So I go up and I rang the doorbell the first time. I don't think that I knew the doorbell went off or not. I could see him kind of walking inside. So I go back and knock on it again just to make sure they heard someone at the door. And I end up walking off. They didn't answer the door. I end up walking off, and I turn around like 10 minutes later after going back and shed hunting more of my buddy's property, and there's a cop car that pulls up. I walk up there, and the cop, walks up to me, and the homeowner, older man, walks out, and just telling this story super quick. The old man basically told me, he was like, Sonny, you need to be more careful, like looking the way you do when you're a door knock, or when you're, it's like, you look kind of sketchy or whatever. And I was like dressed normal, Sunday afternoon, whatever. And he said, you don't know this, but the second time when you came up to the door and knocked on it, it was like a door and then kind of like just glass windows on the side. He said, I had my revolver, my pistol, and I was aimed it right at your chest. And he said, I had my finger on the trigger, and he's like, I was shaking. And he said, about the moment I was about to squeeze the trigger and shoot you is when you turned and walked back.
Oh my gosh.
And I yelled at him.
Yeah, I bet.
I yelled at him because I was like, sir, what if I was a neighbor that was like locked out of my house and needed help, just needed to borrow your phone or like whatever, and I'm like, well, you were going to shoot me. No questions asked. Not even like, hey, who are you? And like, what are you going to tell my mom?
Yeah.
Insane. What are you going to tell my brother? What are you going to tell my dad? And then the cop jumped in and started cussing him out bad.
Yeah, I bet.
But ever since then, when I go to knock on a door, man, if it's a bad feeling, like,
just leave.
That thought crosses my mind
100%.
of like, you could just cross the wrong person.
Dude, it crosses mine too, and I'll think about it. I'm like, man, like you said, if I get a bad feeling, if it feels weird, maybe I see some signs that just, I don't know, freak me out. You get some weird stuff. A lot of times, there is times I'll just turn around and leave. It's not worth it. Like, if I feel weird about it, there's other big deer, there's other places to get around there that you can kill that deer or whatever you're trying to kill. I'd just rather do that, and and then maybe another day I'll try it again and still feel bad about it. I just never will. But
what other door knocking things?
So we've got that one. I'll tell you a hunting one. This is actually a buddy. Tommy. Shout out to Tommy. He'll probably listen to this. He might laugh. I don't know what he feels about this now. Being this was before. We might not have known each other when this happened. No, we definitely didn't. This was right before me and you met, the year before. We got the spot. We hadn't met before the season or anything. We met during the season because we got the same spot. It was like this neighborhood, and it was two separate wood lots. He would hunt this one, I'd hunt the other one. And he was hunting, and he calls me, like, I don't know, he calls me in like midday. And he's like, dude, I just had a gun pointed at me. I was like, what are you talking about? So this dude, he was in a stand, and I guess I shot a deer the night before. The deer went over there. I waited till the daylight. It was a liver shot to find the deer. I found the deer, and then off in the disc, not that far away, I hear gunshots. So I was like, whatever. So I leave, get the deer, go. And then I think it was the next day, he was hunting, and he sees a guy walk through the woods, and the dude's got a gun in his hand, like an AR-15, and he sees Tommy in the tree and pulls the gun out, points a gun at him or whatever, and it's like, hey, you need to get down out of that tree right now. And mind you, this is not this guy's property. This is just a neighbor that lives like on the edge of the neighborhood or whatever. And so this dude points this gun at Tommy as he's climbing out of the tree, and I guess explains to him, he's like, I heard gunshots back here. The other day, you guys are shooting deer back here with guns. Y'all are in danger of my family. Well, it turns out a deer just got hit by a car, and the cops had to put it down, and that's what the gunshots were.
Huh.
So I can't remember how he got out of it. He ends up getting away, and calls the cops. Cops come. They arrest the guy, take his guns, and and they charged him with like multiple felonies. It was really scary. And like even the last story with the door knock, that was with Tommy as well. So a couple of my stories have happened there. And then, I've got some other, like a funny one where we were hunting. I don't think we were all hunting together. I was in Nashville hunting. And this is a spot Slade lets me hunt some. And I'm sitting in the tree, and it's like right up against these people's back doors. Just the way the property lays out. It's like 5 acres, but the main trail's right off, right in the back. Not in the backyard. It's down in like a cutover, but it's a super steep hill. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there, and I hear, I'm like, psst, psst. Like, what the heck is that? I turn around, and the landowner's like peeking out the door. He's like, "Want anything to eat? Want anything to drink?" I'm like, "No, I'm good." He's like, "All right, cool. Well, there's a big buck in the front yard. You might want to go try to get him." And so I text Slade. I'm like, "Dude, the landowner just came out back and told me there's a big buck in the front yard." And I'm like, "What should I do?" He's like, "I mean, you can't really get down because you can't go in the front yard and shoot the deer. Like you can't do that."
Yeah.
And other houses will be able to see you. I'm like, "All right, well, I'm just going to see if the landowner can send me a picture." I'm like, "Hey, send me a picture." I text again. I'm like, "Hey, send me a picture." And so I get a picture like a few minutes later, and it's a 4-pointer.
Yeah. That's the hard thing. Door knocking's like someone you talk to, like, "Oh, I see a huge buck." Uh-huh. Like, "Oh, you have a picture?" Like, yeah, actually, let me see it. And they'll show you a picture, and it's just like,
it's a little scrap.
You get so excited. Like, "Oh my gosh, they're seeing this giant buck." And it's like a little dink 6.
I know.
6-pointer.
I just thought, I'm trying to think. I just blanked on it, I think, actually. If I remember it all.
But then, on the contrary, I've also had people that are like, "Oh, yeah, I see some good deer. Oh, yeah, I took a picture of one of them." Yep. And then they show you some absolute just magnum.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember what I was going to say. I had a bout with a homeless man. Yeah. What? First spot I ever got.
Whoa, what do you mean a bout?
Me and him were not like an actual fight, but.
Because a bout, I know you're a big UFC guy.
It's like
what do you mean by a bout?
Dude, this guy, man, I get this. Mind you, I started bow hunting in 2019.
What does a bout mean? A fight, right?
Yeah, but not really. Like, it wasn't like a fist fight. It was
all right.
I'll explain. I started bow hunting in 2019.
Yeah.
So I was a gun hunted them a whole life. We used to run dogs on deer in Virginia and shoot the deer with buckshot. But I picked up a bow in 2019. 2020 comes, moved to Ohio. I've killed one like 105-inch 8-pointer, which for me was like top of the world, being from Virginia. So I get to Ohio. I get this spot. It's got, like I said, 170-inch buck, like just freaking, it's giant. And I start getting pictures of this deer, and it's summertime. And then I start getting pictures of this guy. He's like walking by my camera like every day, and I'm freaking out because I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this buck's gonna leave. Like this buck's he's gonna get out of here. He doesn't like this. He doesn't want this." So I start getting pictures of this guy, and I'm trying to figure out how to get him out of there. So I go down in there, and I'm like, just figured I'd do a quick walkthrough. And I can see the structure right on the other side of the creek. And it's like the guy has built up with Riverstone this like little, almost like not house, but I mean, you could sleep in it.
I think you sent me pictures of this.
I definitely have.
It was impressive.
Really impressive. Like it was like probably 6 to 8 feet tall.
Yeah.
And it was like a clump of 4 trees. And then he walled off all the trees with an entrance and everything. There was no roof, but there was an entrance. So I jumped over there.
Just all made of stone.
All made of Riverstone, yeah. Insane. And so I jumped over there and checked it out. I'm looking at it, and I walk in. It's got all these little, like, gadgets. He's got, like, little shelves built out in the Riverstone.
He's not in it.
He's not in it. But there's all these little things that he's found, like, walking around. And I find this bucket, and it's full to the brim with
poop?
Corn. No, corn.
Oh.
He's
I thought you were saying it was his poop bucket.
No, he's got like a ton of my corn in this bucket. And so I put the camera on video mode.
Yeah.
And you had to manually do it, and I leave, and I keep getting pictures of this guy, and I tell the cops go down there, they put like a note there that says like, "Hey man, you kind of gotta get out of here. It's private property." And I put up posted signs. I tried everything. This dude wouldn't listen. And but I started getting videos of him. He'd come up to the corn pile with a bag. He'd shovel in this corn into this bag. Then he'd wave at my camera, and he'd just leave. And then 30 minutes later, 170-inch buck with a drop time comes walking in.
Nah.
And I'm just like, I'm freaking out because every day.
This is your first year bow hunting?
Second year bow hunting ever.
Okay.
First year, like really like, big city urban hunting. Like,
yeah.
And I was just freaking. I was like, there's no way this deer's going to stay here with this guy here. But I think the deer was just used to it. He just was like, I think there's situations where deer know, like, someone who's not supposed to be there, someone, I don't know, someone who's supposed to be there. I don't know if it's what it is, but the deer just didn't seem to care about this guy.
I think that they can associate the difference in danger, and then something that they're used to.
For sure. And this guy, they were used to him. And I'm still, to this day, I will put a camera out in September, and I guarantee you one of the first pictures I get,
he's still there.
That guy. Yeah. I saw him when I was walking down the road right next to my property. I followed him. I was like, what is this guy doing? And he went to this really nice neighborhood, dipped down between two houses down into the bottom, and he's upgraded now. He's completely upgraded it. There's like a fire pit.
Is he at the same spot?
Same spot. Big fire pit, huge, tall. Like the structure's taller now. It's bigger. He's got
he's got years invested in this.
Yeah, he now has a big rock down there that he's painted, like he's named it. I won't say the name of the creek because that'll kind of give away where it is, but it's called Creek Chapel, and it's on that rock.
It's crazy how, and this is in Ohio, dude. Ohio's got brutal winters.
Yeah,
this guy's living in a rock structure in a creek.
The cops think he's a part of a homeless shelter up the road, and during the day when they let him out, he goes down here. And he's built this whole thing, so they don't think he's sleeping
there.
He
lives there.
Yeah, they think he just goes down there in the daytime and just kind of hangs out, does whatever.
So, did you ever end up contacting him?
I have never talked to the guy.
So I didn't
actually bout with him. Yeah, it's just like I thought I was in a bout with him because I'm like, this guy's got to get out of here. Like I'm calling the cops. So then it's funny. I call the cops one day. Like I'm going hunting and I think I see a fire down there.
Yeah,
it's the morning. It's dark. I'm walking in. So I call the cops and I'm like, hey, I think he's down there. And they come over. They send a squad car over with two guys and they walk down there and. I'm stupid. It was a light reflecting off the creek water.
Oh man!
And so they're like, "Yeah, it's not down there." And so they're walking up at this point. It's daylight. They're walking up, and I'm like, "Oh, look at the deer." There's some deer walking in, some does, and they're like, "Oh, that's crazy." And the deer freak out because they see the cops, and they run, and they go back across because they would come across the road. So they go to run back across the road. Mind you, this is like people are going to work.
Yeah.
And we can't see. We just see they run into the road because there's like a little hill. And all you hear is a car just go,
oh no,
wham! And a dude leveled one of these deer, tore his car. I felt so bad
because y'all spooked him.
Yeah, because we were the ones who spooked him. I told the guys, like, bro, I don't know if I ever told him we spooked him. I was just like, man, I'm sorry. I don't know.
You can never control that.
No, you can't. But it's just the dude tore his car to pieces. It was
Did you whatever happened to that big 170 with the drop time that was in there?
So opening day, I was getting this deer every day. Mm-hmm. And then as they do in Ohio, and I've learned this now because I've hunted it so long, they start to transition just like Kimbo did. He was there opening day and was gone for like 7-8 days. They start a transition right then. Like most of my big deer will disappear the week before the season starts.
Yeah.
And they'll get real. And I actually shot. So he started to disappear, but he was still around enough. Opening morning, I'm sitting there and I see a body come through. And I was like, it's too dark. I couldn't shoot. It was technically legal light, but I couldn't shoot. I couldn't tell even what he was. I could see the body. And I was like, man, I bet that's that other buck. I had like a 150 running with him. And he would always come first. And then Hangnail, which is what I called him, would come second. And so I thought, I was like, oh, that's the 150. And as he's walking through, he stops at the corn for like 2-3 minutes. And as he's walking through, he gets real close to that creek. And I can see what I thought in the reflection off the creek. I could see what I thought was his antlers, like just big antlers.
Yeah.
So as soon as it gets a little light, I open my phone, my camera app, and I look, and sure enough, it was him. So I go that evening, and he comes through late again, like right on the edge, and I'm like, I think I can make this shot. So I draw back. He's probably 10 yards. I shoot. And it honestly I shouldn't have taken the shot, but it was so early on, I didn't know. I don't know where I hit him, but I hit him. And he ran up the hill, and I could tell it wasn't, I knew it wasn't, either if it was lethal, it was far back, but he went up the hill and walked away. And as I'm walking out, I got a picture on my phone. I looked to my left, 20 yards from my car, and he's standing there looking at me. Just looks fine. Can't even tell where you hit him.
Yeah.
So he disappears after that for 3-ish days. That was a Saturday. He disappeared Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Massive cold front comes through on Wednesday. I'm like, I got to be in the stand. And I didn't know a ton at this time. I just knew big cold front like that, get in the stand. Get in the stand that evening, and early, 5 o'clock maybe, he comes walking through. And he's slow, dude. I saw him at the creek at 40 yards, 50 yards. And I was like, I'm going to wait till he gets to the feed. I'm going to let him do his thing. And it was slow. It felt like an hour. And he finally got to the feed. And I drew back. And when I shot, he ducked. I mean, I was a bad shot that year anyway. I was still learning. I didn't know. My fundamentals weren't correct. Yeah. And he ducked it too. But he ducked it. Arrow went through his back strap. He ran off. I tracked him the next day. Never could find him. Didn't get pictures for about 2 weeks. Finally showed up again at that brink of daylight as I'm driving back from Virginia, because I was working. And then he showed up one more time broad daylight on October 17th, my dad's birthday, and I should have been in the stand because it was a massive cold front. 8 in the morning, he was on the corn pile under my tree stand. And then October 23rd-ish, saw him chasing a doe. And never saw him again after that.
Really? So
saw him.
He was fine.
Yeah, he was healthy. Yeah. Unless he got some weird infection.
Yeah.
But then come to find out there were more hunters in that area.
So maybe someone got him.
I just thought I would have seen a picture.
Yeah.
Because I did have connections at that time.
It's interesting, and we kind of talked about this last night, where so you saw that video my brother made.
Yes.
So my brother, I have an older brother, Max. He's 3 years older than me, and this was before Seek One was a thing.
Yeah.
Like 2012.
2012.
And Drew filmed me hunt Charlie in 2015, and then it was 2016 was when we actually did our first video series, and it was for Mossy Oak's Facebook page. So this is way before all of that, the beginnings of Seek One. Me and my buddy Jonathan Fang, shout out Johnny if you're listening, and you were asking me last night, why were you filming? I don't know why we were filming.
Yeah, I was curious. I was like, what made you think? Because YouTube hunting wasn't really it wasn't a thing at all until
no, dude. Honestly, I think that it was probably just I loved watching hunting shows.
Yeah,
and at the time, I was like, man, it would be my dream to have a hunting show. I was so into hunting, and I was watching all these shows. Man, it'd be the dream. And it was I had these big bucks I was hunting.
Yep.
I was letting my buddy Johnny hunt with me, and then it was if we're just kind of sharing spots and whatnot, and it was if there was a spot, I don't know, he just filmed me on occasion. It's we had I think his parents had a handheld camera. Anyways, I'm getting too sidetracked here, but we filmed this 150 plus inch 8-pointer. The footage is unreal.
Yeah, the one we watched last night.
Yeah, the footage is amazing.
Is great. You could, that would pass for really good footage today. It's really clear too for 2012.
Comes in on a doe, leaf branch stuck in his antlers, trying to shake it off and stuff. And anyways, we have all this footage, and my brother went back with a GoPro with me. He's just following me around holding a GoPro, getting all the awesome. Shots to kind of
extra shots.
He was the director, and he's we need this shot. I need you walking through the woods, and it's just him with a GoPro walking around. There's some really
awesome, funny
clips in there, but going back and watching from 2012, and I think I started hunting in 2006, 2007.
Yeah, you said somewhere 2007, 2008 time frame.
So I'm about 5 years into my hunting.
Yeah.
Even watching that old video, it's 5 years in, and you can clearly tell I know nothing.
Yeah.
And it's just funny, we were talking about the learning curve. How the learning curve
is crazy. It's insane. Yeah, you look at that video and you're you've been doing it for 5 years, 6 years at that time, and I mean, you definitely knew stuff, but you could tell like there was still some green. You're still green
so
to
much
it, right?
green.
And it's like nowadays, man, with all the content, I started bow hunting. It's 2024.
Yeah.
I started bow hunting in 2019.
Yeah, so about 5 years,
like
which is the same time frame of when I started and when that video was filmed.
But now, if you start 5 years, like you can learn so much and watch so many videos and talk to so many people, like podcasts.
Yeah.
Like you can learn so much that can just shorten that learning curve.
Learning curve's cut.
It's insane, dude.
Because for you to have only been hunting for 5 years, I mean, you've accomplished a lot, or really your learning curve has been extremely fast.
The one thing I'll tell, like I say 100% what has made me more efficient so fast, obviously is the ability to learn how we can now, but honestly, suburban hunting, because you put yourself, you're having deer come in, you're having 20 deer come in a hunt. You learn the mannerisms of a deer. You learn what they do, how they react to stuff. Like you learn how they know, they're looking behind them, big bucks coming. Like you learn so much
from just being around deer.
Being around. Yeah. And like, they'll bust you, and you've got to figure out how the heck am I going to stay, kind of out of view when there's 20 deer in front of me.
Yeah.
And you learn how to do that, and it makes you so much more efficient.
When you were talking about the homeless guy with that 170,
and
it was like he'd come in 30 minutes after the homeless guy, and it's like he's kind of used to that guy's deal or whatever. They grow accustomed to certain 100%. Things, and where I killed Kimbo, there was homeless guys all over.
100%.
So he's I had a Satanist on trail camera come in, take a piss in front of the camera, bottle of whiskey in the pocket, and then Kimbo comes in like an hour later at night.
Yeah, dude.
And
they know.
They are good at like avoiding those presences and associating what's dangerous, what's not. But in that same spot where homeless dudes were coming in and pissing and taking craps everywhere, tons of human scent around. I got busted. I was out of the tree. Opening morning, I got winded and blew all those deer out. And to this day, Kimbo was in there when those deer blew. To this day, I wonder if that was not part of the reason why he was like, I'm going to go somewhere else now. And he went the 4 miles or whatever it was. Like, was it that? I don't know.
It probably played a part.
But maybe it played a part in it.
Yeah, like, I mean, that same spot where I had that homeless guy, I just picked a random tree once again. I didn't know anything. And opening morning, after all those bucks moved through, those does would not stop blowing.
Yeah.
Like, and I had to move my whole tree. Like, they know. It's weird, and it's hard for me to explain to people because then people will like discredit you, and they're like, oh yeah, that deer was around a bunch of homeless people, or he knew human scent. Dude, I don't care. They know when something's weird, and they're really good at pinpointing smells where that person is in that tree.
And the only way I can explain that to someone is like, it's hard to explain, but the only way to know it is to do it.
Exactly.
And once you do it enough, like you understand and get that it's not suburban hunting. Like, you see these pictures posted from some of these cities up north, like, just some of these cities up north. I won't say names, where some of these deer are literally in people's yards chilling, and they 100%. Look like they're just, you could walk up and pet them. And it's not the case, but seeing an image or something like that, it makes people draw conclusions that have never done it.
For sure.
I've also had to draw a line of like, I won't hunt a deer like that. This, that, and the other. But
you have to be careful.
Yeah, for sure. But the image of like, oh well, that should be easy. They're used to human scent. Like, they know the difference.
Yeah, and they're getting hunted. These deer, just because you see a picture in a backyard of a deer, that's just an area that deer's been to.
He knows he's safe.
You could go in the country, like Slade's farm in Alabama. They have deer come out in their yard. They have pigs come out of the yard because they've never been shot there because his mom won't let them shoot anything within, I think it's like a 5-acre radius of the house, unless maybe it's like a pig. But the animals, it doesn't matter where you live at. Like, if they know that they've never been messed with in a certain spot, it doesn't matter if it's urban, country, they'll go there in daylight. They'll eat corn out of the backyard, whatever. Like, but, that's just because they've never been messed with there. Yeah. They know. But, like, they've been hunted. They're getting hunted.
Yeah, on a personal example is the upside down buck I killed.
Yeah.
He lived on a farm.
Yeah.
I killed him in a suburban area, but he grew up and lived on a farm in a bean field, and that farm was hunted a lot.
Yeah.
Like there's tons of hunting. And so that deer grew up in a rural setting, and then he moved into the suburban setting where he was like, this is my zone. I'm safe.
Yeah.
And it was infiltrating him in that zone that got him killed.
Yeah.
The same thing is with like, I've never experienced this personally, but I've been told several times that there's mule deer out west that are like, dude, straight up suburban, like living in people's yards, huge ones.
And they're migratory.
And that these hunters are hunting them on, like that they'll migrate out in these mountains and this big public all around. Or maybe they live out in the big open public, and then when the season opens is when they push into the suburbs.
I actually think the story that I know of, and I can't remember what podcast it was, but I listened to a podcast of a guy who killed a ridiculous deer. I think it was in Utah. I think it lived in the middle of the city in a cemetery.
Like
in
giant
the summer,
mule deer.
like 240 inches, something crazy like that.
Yeah.
And that deer would live in the cemetery in the summer. Everybody would be taking pictures. It was like the city pet. And then as soon as the season came, it would actually move into the mountains. And there was all these people hunting them on public. And this guy who killed it didn't say anything for years after he killed it. And then finally, like 5 years later, he posted the pictures and stuff. But he just knew it'd be so much heat.
Yeah.
Like he knew to. But I mean, these deer were moved. They were living on public land during the season, but in the summer, they're in the middle of a city, of a big city. I think it was like Salt Lake City or something like that. I could be wrong though.
Yeah, I've never experienced much Western stuff, but kind of like you're saying, like the stories of how it's similar, but you see this giant deer standing in someone's yard, and then some guy kills it, you know, off in his wilderness area, whatever. It's just like there's this is what it boils down to. Until you've done it, it's and I'll give a shout out to Zach Farrenball with the Hunting Public. He did a post recently, a month or so ago, on his Instagram, and it was like he was talking about his preconceived notions to doing deer drives, I think in Ohio.
Yes, I think I watched that video.
And he was like, how before he did it, he was like, I just viewed it as like, X, Y, and Z. I had all these preconceived notions. That's not hunting, or this, that, and the other. And then he was like, once I did it, and he's like, I, kind of immersed myself in that style of hunting and that culture. He's like, it's one of my favorite hunts. And previous, I just had this misconception And so he was just, his point in the post was like, don't judge a book by its cover until you do it. And I thought that post was extremely well written.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just want to have opinions. I think there's a lot of jealousy. When you see people kill, for some reason, hunting is overridden with it. And I told you this a million times. You can use the feeling of wanting to kill a deer like that. You can be jealous. Like somebody can be jealous of you. They can be jealous of me, anyone, because, we killed a big buck. Or you could use that feeling and say, I'm going to go and do that. I'm going to be the guy that kills that 180 or that 150, 200, whatever it may be. Like,
because screw him, do your thing.
Like that when you go and kill a deer like Kimbo, that motivates me. I could get jealous at you and say, oh, well, Lee this, Lee that. But no, I use that as motivation. I say, man, I want to kill a deer like that. And I think there's a difference in people. Like, and then you watch someone go out and then they do it. Like, but that when you watching what you've done the last few years has motivated me to say, all right, I can go out. Like, I can get on this type of deer. Maybe not one like Kimbo, but because there's just so few, but like I can go kill a 180-inch deer. I can put in the work because the work's there to be put in.
You're proof of the work because every year you've stepped it up, and better year, and it's because of all the work you put in. You had the best season you ever had.
Oh yeah,
this past year.
Yeah, it was insane. I was like, man, the way this year was, we were moving around because my wife was in medical school. We were doing rotations. We were living in a different place every month. So I kind of had just said, if I kill a 150, I'm gonna be like off the walls.
You kill like 4 of them.
I killed I killed 3 in 19 days.
Yeah, and that's wild.
And it was at one spot. It was just like I didn't want to get up, but I got up. I went and knocked on one door, and she said yes. It took me a month of convincing her, but she said yes. I was in Tennessee, and she texts me and says, "Hey, you still want to hunt?" A month later, and I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "All right, you're good." And then the next month, we lived in that city, and I got a picture in Ohio, killed that buck, went back to Virginia, shot 6 days after I killed a 151 in Ohio, I killed a 148, which is my biggest Virginia buck. Could have never dreamed of killing a deer like that in Virginia. And then 12 days later, I shot the buck I was after, which was a 155-inch 8-pointer. I never would have thought. But like, it was just, you just put in work. Maybe you don't want to get up and do it. But there's one spot, and there's deer there.
It's the work that puts you in position to have the success like 100%. That. Because anybody can get lucky.
Yeah.
Anyone can get lucky. But when you're repeatedly doing something like that, you put yourself in the 100%. Position to have a banner year like that.
100%.
And it may have been work you've been doing the last 2-3 years that finally paid off 2 or 3 years down the road.
It takes time. It takes just time to learn it. Everybody wants this quick, like, how can I get it quick? You can't. You've just got to go out and do it. And you got to start, and you got to figure it out. And you're going to make mistakes. You're going to miss big bucks. You're going to not get the spot. Just stuff like that happens. But I'm telling you, somebody who's only 5 years into it, looking back, seeing the work that I've put in over the last 3 years, especially in Ohio, and now I can look. I probably had 5 deer over 160 on camera, including a 190 this year. So like that stuff, it's a testament of the work. Now next year, it's like, instead of having, like, I'll still knock, but like I know I'm like, if I feed these spots and I watch these spots, like, I have a real good chance of killing a deer like that. That's a nice feeling to have.
Yeah. And to your point of what you said about Kimbo, like, people are always going to have, you use it as motivation, like 100%. That you can go do this.
Yep.
There are some people that take it certain ways, that it triggers a different emotion of like anger or whatever. Kimbo was a suburban deer. I'm on the biggest deer of my life right now.
Yep.
And it's a completely rural deer.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that if I, God willing, took that deer, it's the same. It would be the same deal, just 100%. A different day.
It would still be, oh, well, he paid. Oh, he did this, he did that, and but these are the same people that have a $2,000 lease.
Yeah.
Dude, and it's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with paying.
I have zero issues with paying money to hunt. So this is funny. When I was in Kansas, because along the lines of like, oh, suburban deer, like, you can only have success in suburban. That's not hunting, whatever.
Yeah.
I go kill a booner in Kansas this past year.
Yep.
And the stories that came out of that town were like, first off, there was original stories that I shot it at night.
Yep.
And then there was other stories where it was like, oh, well, he paid some locals to go drive that deer off of another farm.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, did you not watch the video at all? But when I called that farmer that had that ground with that Milo where that deer was at, I was like, I'm fully prepared. If he wants $500, a couple $100, like, I'm fully prepared. That is worth it to me.
Yeah.
I've spent all this money and time on plane tickets, travel.
It's worth it.
I've already got all this invested. I was like, just I'm not that proud where I'm like, I'm not going to spend money for permission. Dude, I would 100%.
Yeah.
If that guy wanted $500, I would have paid it.
Absolutely.
So I don't like,
there's nothing wrong with it.
There's nothing wrong with it.
People, I think it just comes down to people wanting an excuse as to why they can't do it. So they say, well, and I know you don't pay at all. I think you might have done a little something.
We've paid for turkey permission. I'm trying to think if there's any. I've offered money before.
Sure. Yeah, and I have too.
It's never been like they've never. It was never like a money thing to the person that said no. But like I've tried that before.
Yeah, I mean, but there's nothing wrong with it. But I think a lot of it just comes down to people just wanting excuses to why they can't do it. So they say, "Oh, Lee's got $2,000. He can go." But no, that's not what's happening. We work hard. We work really.
I get
really
it though, man. Like an outsider that doesn't see the day to day, like that's an easy conclusion to draw.
It is.
I really am trying to think hard of like what money I spent hunting a deer. I mean, we paid to go seek a deer hunt.
Did an outfitter in Kansas years ago.
I did an outfitter in Kansas. This was before Seek One, years and years ago. Didn't like that experience at all.
Outfitters, I won't talk about that. A lot of people are going to listen to this, but
no, outfitters.
There's some really good outfitters.
Too,
there's some really bad. There's some really bad outfitters.
The one I went with was they put me in gar holes the whole time. It was
that can be a problem with some of
them. I just like controlling my own destiny.
Yeah, me too. That's why I like knocking.
But I understand how it would be easy to draw that conclusion of like, oh, they have this show.
Yeah.
You know, they're making a living off this thing. They're just throwing money at it. I 100% understand how people could draw that conclusion.
For sure.
I wish that people could sit in the passenger seat of my truck every day.
Me too. Yeah, I think people would realize like we're doing this,
dude. It's every day.
It's the honest way. And I think a lot of people do. You know, I've listened to like Rogan will talk a lot about it, man. Like that one comment will drown out the 100 good. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of people, maybe even hundreds of thousands, that believe that you do it the right way, that all of us do it the right way. Then there's the couple that just want to not believe that.
I'll tell you, I've gotten to the point where I care a lot less.
Yeah. Yeah, you almost have to.
I care a lot. Well, it was a process.
Yeah.
Life is always a journey.
Yeah.
And for me, it was a process of like getting to a point where I care significantly less about what some comments say.
Yeah.
It took me a while to get there where it just ate me up bad. Even the Kimbo stuff, like,
yeah,
you know, there was
definitely got it on that one.
Oh, dude, it's hard to block out a lot of that, but
difficult, man.
Because I've gone through those experiences, like I understand now that like if it makes me happy, I have morals.
For sure.
I'm not going to do unethical, immoral things.
No.
And as long as I know in my gut and my heart I'm doing right and I'm doing my thing.
That's all that matters.
And I'm just doing my thing.
That's right. Yeah, it's all you can do. I mean,
then who gives a shit what
exactly
what a small group of people have to say? Like,
and there's millions of people that enjoy sequence content.
You're not going to make everybody happy.
No, you're not. Not when you're talking that level of people. You just can't do it. And it is what it is. There's going to be people that will never appreciate it, enjoy it, and they'll always be mad. That's just life. It just is what it is.
Well,
you know?
I know what it takes to have a year like you had.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm tipping my cap to you. It's like,
I appreciate it.
It's hard to put into words how much time, energy, effort goes into having the stars align for a year like you had. I mean, and that's why I say, like, I wish some people could just do ride-alongs.
For sure.
Some days.
Just see the work that it takes. I mean, years. I can think, like, after the year I had, I think back and I'm like, all the heartbreak, man. Missing the 170-inch deer twice. Missing I don't know what the deer was in Virginia, but I missed a monster in Virginia. Like, missing another deer in Ohio. Like, that stuff, but I learned, man. I said, I learned this is what you got to do better next time. And it paid off,
It's all building blocks.
It is. 100%.
You learn.
Got to go through it, man.
Yeah. That's the thing. The learning curve can be cut a lot, but until you go do it,
that's it.
It's the only way
That's the only way. The only way you'll learn.
An example of just the obsession is I've got a pile of shed antlers, and it's funny. I think I leaked this on a previous podcast. I leaked it in an Instagram story on my page, but I found the biggest shed antlers I've ever found. Matching set.
Yeah.
Like, dude, stupid. I had them on this table.
Can't show those.
We almost started recording with them there, and I was like, dude, we gotta hide those. But the shed antler of the 10 that I've found, I don't want to say what state. This is a different deer, but I've got coming up on 4 years invested in this deer, and I told you it's a 170 plus inch deer. I've got one of his shed antlers. Me, Alex, and Kendall searched and searched and searched,
mm-hmm.
and we've done over 100 miles.
It's insane.
As a group, looking for these antlers.
Yeah.
I'm probably over 50 miles personally, and we found the one shed antler on mile 75.
It's insane.
75 miles
for one shed
of searching. And the reason I know that is because we're using our tracker on Spartan Forge tracking, and it shows you. So I get curious every year and I add it all up. And we're now in over 100 miles. I still haven't found the other shed antler. But that deer, I have probably more time invested in that deer than any deer I've ever hunted. Yeah,
you've passed that deer that I've known about, and he was about the same size last year.
He's 70s last year.
Maybe a little smaller, but you passed him 2 years. When you said you're passing this year, I'm like, you're crazy.
Well,
but
I tried to kill him.
I get it too.
I tried to kill him.
You tried to hunt him early, and then when when we were scheduling doe day, I was like, you gonna try to kill that 10, and you're like, nah, I'm just gonna wait.
Yeah, here's also what I think happened, and this is talking about suburban deer and how they're smart. I'm also talking about old mature bucks, like 1-year-olds, 2-year-olds, like doesn't matter where you are, they're gonna act like 1 and 2-year-old deer. Absolutely. And around here they act the same way.
Yep.
So I had that buck come in, and he was coming in. It's a spot he likes a lot.
Yeah.
He was coming in like multiple times a week in daylight. He'd be the first. He'd show up at 1:00.
Yeah.
Just middle of the day.
Yep.
First sit we get in there, he comes in like 2.5 hours before dark, and he's in there just chilling. Spends a lot of time in there.
Yeah.
Other deer come in, we're stuck in the tree till after dark, and he's still around. So he comes in, and I was hunting under a white oak with a scrape line that he hits.
Yeah.
And he didn't get there until it was like 30 minutes after dark.
Yeah.
And we're trying to slip out without boogering these deer. He comes to 15 yards. And I know it because I had him on a trail cam on video mode.
And you could see him on the
And I could see he's there. Jeez. I think that he caught a bit of our wind that night.
Yeah.
And knew, like, it was almost like, oh, I'm on to you.
Yeah.
And then ever since that moment, it was like he was different.
Yeah.
He was extremely dodgy. I tried my best. I mean, that was late October. I hunted him for a month and a half straight.
Yeah.
Dude, never had a chance at him.
People can say what they want about y'all killing deer in other states. Bro, Georgia is another level. These deer are so smart. Like, so smart. All of them.
Well, there's a lot of people hunting them.
Yeah, they're so smart. I've never gone to a place and they just blow. I mean, they just catch me every time. I don't know what
You've been blown out a lot in doe day.
Yes, I know. I can't. I'm cursed. That property that me, you, and Chris hunt.
Yeah.
I cannot kill one there, dude. I've missed twice. 2 years in a row I've missed because they ducked my arrow. And then it's insane.
That property and that area gets hunted a lot. Yeah. And so those deer are very alert to the deal.
That's a funny hunting story. Not this past doe day, but the first one that we all came to. I had a kid. You weren't hunting that day. Me, Slade, and Chris went into this place, and this dude was there, and he's like back from college or whatever, and he might even be listening to this. And I'm not making fun of you if you are. I think it's hilarious. He's like, hey, I'm hunting. I'm back from school. I'm gonna go sit up here. I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. So I'm like, well, I'm going to sit here. So like, it's like a big hill, and then it's like I don't want to explain too much, but anyway, he's over here. I'm off to the right or whatever, down in this bottom, and there's an easy way to get to that spot, but he'd have to park pretty much under my tree. And this is the magnolia tree where you killed spikezilla this year. And so I'm like, all right, well, I'm going here. So like, if you don't mind, just like park up top and walk in the other way. So I get there, and sure enough, the golf cart's like 20 yards from my tree. I'm like, oh, well, it is what it is. So I get in the tree, and it's like not seeing anything. Probably cold as all get out. Probably an hour before like last legal light or whatever. And I can hear, I'm like, something's telling me just like look over towards like where that kid would be at. And sure enough, I do. And he's like walking down this like hill through this like creek or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he's got a crossbow, and he goes up to the golf cart, and he's like messing around with his crossbow, and I'm 40 yards from him, something like that. And I see him like, what is this guy doing? And he grabs his crossbow, and he just starts sneaking like real. Gets like real low and starts walking real slow. And he gets to the feed, and he just like starts to ease up over it. He's got his crossbow up just in case he sees one. There's nothing. I can see for hundreds of yards. Yeah. There's nothing. And he sees it, and he's like, oh, okay. And just turns around and walks away, and gets back in his golf cart and just drives on.
Those deer are educated there. Yeah. And how I killed, so I was trying to kill spikezilla for 2 years.
Yeah, it's 2 years, yeah.
What I noticed was there's so many deer in that area that late season we're feeding because we're wanting to shoot does.
Yeah.
I noticed that a lot of those other deer, like you'll feed that day, they'll come in that evening, be there the next morning, whatever. Spikezilla was a several day deer where it's like if you were in there in any way to feed or whatever, like it was 2 or 3 days before he would show back up.
So probably the oldest deer I've caped out this year. Probably one of the oldest, top 3. Him, Kimbo, and another deer from Virginia. Those are the 3 oldest deer I caped out. And you killed 2 of them.
I want to send his teeth off.
You need to, yeah. But those were the two of your deer were the 2 of the 3 oldest that I did this year.
Yeah. So like normally for the doe stuff, like you could go in, lunch, feed, slide in the stand that afternoon.
Yeah.
I was like, for that spot in spikezilla, I was like, I fed it 4 days ago.
Yeah.
I'm not going in there.
Yeah.
And I just got lucky. It was the right timing and came through that night.
He was daylight on all 3 of our spots.
He'd show up on all.
He showed up that week before. You showed me a picture where he was on mine in daylight, where he was on Chris's in daylight, and then where he was on yours in daylight.
He could have showed up at any one of those.
It was a toss up. No, we didn't know who was going to shoot him. Yeah. And you got us pretty good. Before we move on, do you want to talk about the cop thing real quick?
Cop thing?
Yeah, with
Which
me
one?
and Slade.
Oh yeah, dude, that's a messed up story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So backtracking way back when we first met, Slade came up on a scouting trip with you. Y'all found a 200-inch deer.
Yeah. I went back. He got up there. It was the day we got up there, and I got him from the airport. We went over to this spot to get this camera. I was still trying to track down that 170-inch buck I'd missed, and I'd heard some rumors that someone had been seen in this area. But anyway, get the camera. We walk out, and I'm like, Slade, someone told me about this buck. Like last year when I went to turn this place, this particular city, you have to do permits. And I had to turn a permit in, and I was asking the cop where to go, and he was like, man, there's like a 16-pointer over here. I was like, really? I didn't think nothing of it the year before, but then I was like, Slade, we need to check in on that. Because the guy who had given me permission on the spot where I had the camera had told me he saw some deer at the police department.
Yeah.
So I was like, let's go to the police department. So we go there, first afternoon, 160-inch 8-pointer with a drop tine. I'm like, what the heck is that? So immediately we got to go back. We got to go check this out. And it was a 160-inch deer and 100 and probably 50-inch 9-pointer as well. So the next morning we go back. We're driving, and we look over to our left, and bedded up is this, was bucks, and we didn't know what. So we pull off. I let Slade out. He has the binos. He pulls the binos up. I do a loop, come back. I don't know what he's looking at. It's been 3-4 minutes. And he gets in the car and says, dude, you're never going to believe what I just saw. There is a 200-inch deer bedded right there. So we stop, pull the binos up, and it's the craziest buck I've ever seen. He's a mainframe 10, probably 14-inch G2s, probably 8-inch drop tines on both sides, double drops, and stickers. Very honestly similar to Kimbo, but just maybe not as freaky, but had stickers off the G2s, like everything. And
like no doubt 200 plus.
Yeah, no doubt 200. Like crazy deer, crazy, man. It wasn't super wide. He just was like had everything else.
This is starting to jog my memory, and it's reminding me how screwed up the story is.
So jacked up, man. So anyway, in this particular city, you've got to have certain acreages, you've got to have certain feet from houses, different things of that nature, and you have to go through a cop. A cop runs the program. He comes out, checks the stands, approves a property, and it's up to his discretion. He can certainly not approve a property, even if it meets the requirements, and you can't have any, like the permit says you cannot, it's no questions asked, they can deny you if they want.
Yeah.
So I actually had a relationship with this guy, so I thought it was really good. So I call the guy. I'm like, hey man, I'm gonna get permission on this property. Would you approve it? So send him the address, and he goes, no, I wouldn't approve that. It's too close to roads. And I'm like,
had you already door knocked on the guys?
No, I was about to.
Okay.
So because he lived out of town. So it was like, if I'm going to do this, I want to make sure that we can do it.
Yeah.
Mind you, sorry, this was before we saw the 200. This was after we saw the 8. I asked him. So we didn't even know this 200 existed when I asked him. So that's why I was like, oh, it's a 160-inch deer. Like, I can go find more other places. Like, I'm not going to go out of town unless I know for sure, like, we can hunt this. He says no. The next morning we go, find this 200-inch deer. Like, all right, we're going to knock. We don't really care. So I go knock. It's probably 2-3 o'clock. And we stop. We talk to the guy. He's like,
so you're saying the cop told you no?
The cop says no. I will not approve that spot.
Okay.
Next morning we see the 200-inch deer.
And just to lay the framework here, there's plenty of woods. Like it's
safe as could be.
Yeah, multiple
safe as could be. Yeah,
lots of acreage.
Yeah,
like
100%. I think it was like 5 acres of woods, and then the houses were also on like 2 acres each. So,
so there's
any of the houses around, because it's a vacant lot, any of the houses around were 2 acres, acre and a half. So it wasn't like this was like super, super tight. Now, granted, there was some roads on each side of it, but I mean, you're talking 300 yards or more between those roads. Like, he had plenty of room to roam, especially if you shot him. He would have just ran. It was a creek that ran through there. He would have just ran up into, down the creek or something. So I was annoyed, but we saw the 200-inch deer. We go and we go out of town, talk to this guy.
So cop on the front end says no.
Yep.
Y'all go door knock anyways.
We go door knock anyway after we saw the 200. We're like, we're going to go do it. We'll risk it. I'm going to make him turn the permit down. So we go and talk to this guy, and he's like, I would let y'all hunt, but I just got a call about 2 hours ago from a cop of that city, and I gave him permission to hunt. And I said, was his name, blank? And he said, yeah, that's him. I was like, really? And I was.
Did you tell him?
Yes, I told the landowner. I'm like, that's crazy. Because
did you tell the cop about a big deer there?
Nope, never told the cop of a big deer. The problem is it's right next to the police station.
Yeah.
So he easily could just see it when he drove.
He may have known
very well
big
known
deer
about
there,
it. I mean, the other cops knew about a big one the year before, which is probably him. So, he's like, yeah, we were lost at that point. We really know what to do. I remember we're talking to you, and you're like, dude, you've got to say something. I'm like, I know, I understand what you're saying, but this is the best city to hunt. I cannot ruin this relationship with this dude, because if I'm out of this city, I very well couldn't. I would be out of the game.
He's the gatekeeper.
He's the gatekeeper.
He holds the keys
city,
to the kingdom.
The best city. Yep. And so I'm like, I don't know what to do. So anyway, he permits it, and I don't even know if it was 100% legal, because it actually turned out the landowner had sold the property to an investment group in Columbus, Ohio, and they were planning to demolish it, or not demolish it, get rid of the trees and build an apartment complex. And so the property had already been sold, and it just had, the name had not been the name on the title or whatever.
Unless he had permission from the investment group, he would have been hunting without permission.
I would have thought.
Yeah.
So
that's sounds, facts,
right? Yeah.
He would have to have permission from the new.
Yeah.
But even if he didn't, even if there wasn't an exchange of the properties, the fact that he's self-dealing like that's it's crooked.
Yeah, for sure. And so we ended up naming the buck Crook.
Fitting.
And the buck was killed. So I'm sitting in my tree stand, hunting 170-inch deer in a different city, and I get a text from the cop of that city that I was in. He's like, I was at a party last night. Well, I asked the cop, I was like, hey, how's your day? This is a good cop. I was like, hey, how's your opening day?
Yeah.
It's the second day of the season. And he says, I was good, shot a doe. He's like, but I was at a party last night, and I heard that a cop in this other city shot a 200-inch deer with double drop tines. And sure enough, I texted the guy that screwed us out of that deer, and I said, how was your opening day? And he said, it was good. I killed a buck. I was like, really? I was like, you got a picture? He's like, I'll show it to you next time I see you. And I've never seen a picture of that deer dead.
So the gist of what happened was, you found out about y'all found this deer.
Found the deer.
You called this cop who presumably was a friend.
Yes, at that time 100% was a friend. He'd helped me track my other buck.
Say, hey, would you approve this area?
Absolutely.
Or this area? And then he said no.
He said no.
The next day, he goes and gets permission exactly where you said.
Correct.
And then approves his own. He approves himself.
And
then shot that deer.
Shoots that buck.
And the property may or may not even
have even been legal. It may not have been a legal kill. That picture never went anywhere. No one has ever seen that picture in the state of Ohio unless you're really, really close buddies with him.
Yeah.
He's never posted it on social media. It has gone nowhere.
To me, that's crooked.
Yep. He was very quiet about it. And then we also did get permission down the road behind a gas station. And he would not approve that, which it was a little more gray. It was the acreage.
The reason he wouldn't approve it is because it's in his.
That was the main
range of that deer.
The problem we ran into with that is he says you have to have landowner signature. The guy who owned the gas station is not. He's a billionaire. Like he owns thousands of them across the country. He has a property manager that manages these properties. I'm sure she has some sort of power of attorney to sign stuff for him. She could sign it. I asked her, I was like, could you bring it in front of him? she's like, he would be mad at me if I even asked, just because he has more stuff to deal with.
Sure.
But she was cool with it.
Yeah, I would have to research into that of like what authority she has. I'm sure it's
but that one was a little more gray. But I got pictures of the 160-inch deer, the 150-inch deer, and another 155-inch 8-point, maybe 160-inch 8-point. Yeah. And I did get one picture of Crook. I didn't realize it until I pulled the card months later when I wanted to get the
I was
camera.
with you when you went to that gas station.
You were? You came up there with me, I think. Yeah, you came up there with me. Because
sure
I don't remember if we didn't hang a stand. We just put cameras out. Yeah, you were with me. Yeah, we put that camera out. Got one picture of him. I got one picture. He's off to the right. And you could just see double drop tines and tall tines. Crazy story.
A 200-inch deer will make people do some wild things.
Sad, dude. It really is. A big buck in general, and that's been something I've tried to live by, is just like do things right. If I got a deer on my wall, I want it to be done right.
Well, I told you, I said, go pick a shed antler from that pile. I'll close my eyes, and I'll tell you exactly what antler it was.
I picked a generic one, too.
It's pretty generic, but that antler, and I told you the story, it was in Atlanta. Deer I had watched for 4 years. 3 years. And like had almost made it through the year, and I was like, next year he is the buck I'm going after. And he got poached by a Army Ranger, pulled up in his Jeep, shot the deer out of the back of his Jeep. And someone in the neighborhood saw it and then knew I hunted over there, and they blamed me. They thought it was me. They're like, this Lee guy, he just shot a deer out of his vehicle. And so I had to sit there and be like, whoa. Like, what are you, I'm not this. Anyways, Army Ranger, full of accolades, just, doing stupid crap because they know where big deer's at.
The Richmond deer.
That's another thing, dude.
He kills this deer. There's a big buck. I'm sure a lot of people listening to this have heard about this deer. A 200, probably at his prime, 50-inch deer.
What's crazy is that it was a big story. Yeah. But then it got outshined by the other Ohio buck.
CJ Alexander buck. It got outshined by the Alexander bucks. That happened the same week.
So the cemetery one kind of got swept under the rug.
It did.
But that one's a big deal.
It's a really big deal. And they've charged that guy with like 20 counts of all kinds of different stuff. And it was funny, there's one charge on there. Virginia's earn a buck, where if you kill a buck, in a lot of counties you have to kill a doe before you can kill another buck. They just do that so you can keep the doe numbers down a little bit. And they got a charge on there, and it says failure to comply with earn a buck. And someone comments, and they're like, well, darn, that's a shame you didn't poach a doe, too.
I know.
But yeah.
The crazy thing with that is that deer in Virginia in that cemetery was probably the most famous
100%
deer in North America that was alive. Absolutely. That people knew about.
And you could not get permission to hunt that deer, dude. It was impossible. I did. I tried a little bit.
In this deer's prime, he was 250 plus.
Easy. I did math. I could see him being 280.
Wouldn't surprise me.
It was a state record. It was a Virginia state record, no doubt. And my theory is there is a very well-known zoo right there. They have captive whitetails. I think a doe got out.
Really?
My opinion is, dude, this just doesn't make sense. You go look at the big ones in that area, they're like 160, 170, not
260 plus.
260. It just doesn't make sense. And I could see a doe or something getting out, and they're just like, whatever, it is what it is. And then a buck breeding with a doe.
But that deer has been that big in that cemetery for years.
3-4 years, yeah.
And everyone, I don't even live in that state, and I've known about him for years just from pictures on Facebook.
And it ain't hard to find out where he was.
No.
They call him, I'll say it in
Hollywood Cemetery buck.
Hollywood Cemetery buck. He's right there. And people would comment. I got a video of him 20 yards from my car once. People were like, I know where that deer is. You shouldn't post. I'm like, dude, everybody knows where that deer is.
Well, that's the danger with, unfortunately, it's the fate of a lot of really big suburban deer is that they get found out about, and then someone slips into these safety zones where they're not supposed to hunt. And
the guy, and it's just like, he could have gotten away with it. He would have 100% gotten away with it if he never said anything. But he sent it to the biggest Virginia hunting page in the state, or the biggest Virginia hunting page, yeah. Like, the place had 80,000 followers. And I know Jeff, who runs Star City, and Jeff, I text Jeff, I'm like, dude, you know what you just posted, right? And he's like, yeah, I'm figuring that out now. And the guy said he killed 70 miles away.
Well, what's crazy is didn't you get a call from the police or game warden?
I woke up the next morning
for evidence
with a missed call from the game warden. He wanted to know. I had posted a picture of one of the other. He killed 3 bucks in there. It was 2 one big 8-point, one kind of decent 8-point, and then that deer. And I had posted some pictures that a buddy of ours, I think you've met him, Ben King. I don't know if you haven't met him, but I think you've exchanged messages with him. He was a very well known photographer in that area, and he sent me some pictures of some stuff of that deer. So I posted in the comments, and they called me wanting to know, one, where I got those pictures. 2, I'm also a taxidermist, with my taxidermy location being 20 minutes outside of Richmond, Virginia. So they wanted to know also if I knew who had the antlers. So I reached out to a few people, but they had also told me he had some other charges, some felony charges that he was already wanted for.
You had videos of that deer.
I did. I took a video of him almost a year before he got poached. I got my own insurance agency in Richmond. It's 10 minutes from that deer. 10 minutes, like nowhere, right across James River. Yeah, it's right there. So I'm nowhere from that deer. I could pop out of work and drive 10, 15 minutes right over there and watch him.
I would imagine that guy knew that deer was that famous. It's hard to be in that area and not have known.
You can't not. I mean, that deer was.
But so he killed not just that one.
He shot 2 before
He killed
him.
3 total.
3 total
of these bucks that lived in this cemetery and are extremely photogenic, where people are seeing these deer all the time, taking photos.
Ben King has pictures. He said that 8-pointer, one of the 8-pointers, real tall 8-point he killed. That was his favorite. That was Ben's favorite. That's his favorite one to photograph. And he remembers the last night he saw him, like a gray, I don't even know, like Tahoe or something, coming into the cemetery. And then he never saw a deer. Right at last light, he never saw a deer.
Was that guy shooting him with a? What did he shoot him with a muzzleloader?
I don't know. That's what he says. I think it ended up being a crossbow. He says he shot it with the story was, hey Jeff, I shot this deer with my muzzleloader today at 20 yards, 7:30 in the morning. And then that's when everyone was like, you definitely didn't kill that in I think he said Prince Edward, which is 80 miles almost away from Richmond. It's like, and I drive through Prince Edward weekly. It's a hike. It's an hour at least from my office, and the deer's 15 minutes the other way.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was insane. I don't want to make any speculation just because the guy's still on trial. Like, I don't want to cause any issues, but yeah, pretty crazy stuff. So it's not set in stone that he did poach this deer. He's been charged with it. So from our standpoint, you definitely don't want to accuse this guy of something yet. I mean, until everything's done with, but
yeah, for sure.
You gotta be careful with that stuff, but it's super sketchy, dude.
Kind of dumb.
I know, dude. It was when he posted that, I was like, somebody finally did it. I was like, I knew it. Well,
yeah. I mean, we thought it was going to happen for years, and then it's like
never did, and it finally did. And a guy that I've never met him. I think his name is Brandon. He'll definitely listen to this. He actually is a skater in the area, and he posted a video on YouTube, and he had a trail camera in this little thicket behind the skate park, just getting pictures of these deer. He wasn't hunting them, and he got pictures of another guy in there with a bow this year, walking through that thicket with a bow. Not the same guy. So there was other people in there messing with that deer.
I would argue that there's not a suburban deer in existence that's not being hunted in some way. Legally or not?
There isn't.
Legally or not?
There's not. Not on east of the Mississippi. Not in whitetail country. I don't want to say east of Mississippi because, but not in whitetail. If there is a city and there's a big deer and it's a whitetail and people are hunting it legally or illegally, people are hunting it.
Yeah.
And it's like that one you were talking about. You did the video that could have been maybe a world record, maybe stretching it, but still, 200 plus typical in its prime. That deer was killed this year.
Yeah.
And so these deer, and he was shot the year that you found
someone, the year he was his biggest, he was shot, I think, by a local cop.
Yeah.
Didn't kill him. And then the next year went downhill. And then the next year I had pictures of him all over one of my spots. Yeah. And I was busy on Kimbo.
Yeah.
Otherwise I was going to pursue that deer.
I think you even had maybe flirted with going up there.
I was about to.
Got shot. And then you got a message that he got shot.
And that deer rebounded in 180 plus inch 8-pointer.
Yeah, I want to say they scored him at like 180 or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I watched the video.
We'll do an episode on that this fall. I mean, I've got a lot of just story and
I guess you probably got a lot of footage from that.
All kinds of stuff, dude.
You almost let me go shoot him.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
We would be hanging out, and he'd be like, "You want to go to Michigan?" Oh, I just said that. Whatever. You can blur it out.
No,
but I guess it's out there now.
People knew that deer was Michigan.
So it's like, you want to go up there and shoot that thing? I was like, Yeah, I'd love to kill it. You're getting daylight photos of this thing like bedded up on your property. He's like 180.
He was killable, but I was like, but he was 200 plus inches as a typical deer before he went downhill because of injury.
You were little. I mean, like you said earlier, you do try to kind of move with discretion. You try to be careful about the type of deer you shoot. You genuinely try to keep it clean because the Richmond deer was on the table for you, I believe, at one point. So maybe not as much as this deer was, but
I think when I originally found out about the Richmond deer, of course it piqued my interest. For sure. And as I dug into it, I quickly realized horrible idea.
Yeah.
No fly zone.
Yeah. Yep. And that Michigan buck kind of was like, it wasn't as big, but still was like, there's people getting pictures in the backyards. You had to be real careful with that. And that's why you kind of I know that's one of the reasons you kind of backed off of him for a little bit.
There's a judgment call there.
You have to, yeah. I mean, you have to, especially when you have a following, you've got to keep it clean.
And what I had decided on that one was, dude, I had spent, I mean, that was a 14-hour drive, I think, if I remember right. Dude. One way.
Hike from here. Yeah.
So 28 hours round trip, dude. I was driving 28 hours just to change trail camera batteries and driving back home. The amount of time I had in that deer alone, unfathomable.
He had a lot of crazy experiences.
A lot of crazy
stories about that. I think you've talked about them on the podcast before.
I have. But and then
crazy stories.
Someone else, another hunter took that deer, and I was genuinely happy for them.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about you too. You'll be really happy for people. Like you genuinely happy for people if they kill a really big deer, even if it's one you're after. I think not everyone's like that.
You have to be. There's just. I used to get bitter when I was younger, and there's always gonna be more deer. There's obviously emotion plays a large role when we've put a lot into a deer. And when I first got that call that deer was killed, the initial part of me was like, "Damn it!" Like just kind of
tough.
But then you quickly get over it, and you're like, you know what? A Virginia. The cemetery buck situation could have happened with a deer 100%. Like that, and it just is this
sad, dude.
Tragedy for that deer.
Yeah, absolutely.
These guys did it right, did it legal, and it's like, you know what?
Seem like good
that's a win for hunters.
Absolutely, they seem like good dudes too. I watched the video, and the video was cool. They're funny.
They're
Canadian
different.
As all get out, different. Buddy. Yeah, right there, and they're in America, but boy, you'd think they're Canadian. It was hilarious. Yeah. some of the stuff, but it's cool.
And even the cops thing, man, even on Kimbo, I've never said this publicly, but there was a lot of local people that were all kind of pissed off or butthurt about that deer. A lot of it originated from a guy that was a cop up there, and he was one of the front runners on social media that was like, "Screw Lee, like I can't believe he came in and killed a local legend."
You probably can't say his name, can you?
No, I would never say his name.
Well, I'll have to ask you.
But he messaged a buddy of mine, and my buddy sent me the screenshot of the text message, or actually
told me about
the Instagram messages. And this guy, who was one of the main guys talking crap, was trying to kill that deer.
That's the thing, man. And like you've talked to multiple people in that city that were trying to get on that deer or were actively hunting that deer.
Yeah.
Like you knew of multiple. Yes, that deer was very urban. That yes, so people could take pictures of it in a park or whatever, or in a yard. I mean, things like that would happen, but it was such urban. But that deer was getting hunted, and that deer was smart. That deer was not dumb.
Yeah, he went 4 miles. Yeah, he was free to come and go as he pleased.
Crazy thing is, you were not hunting that over corn, which I thought was insane. Because
you're a big corn. You're a corn dude. You are a corn guy.
I'm sitting over a pile of corn if I got that thing on camera. But you purposely were like, hey, I want to do this. I think you were hunting over a scraper trail. But you're like, I want to do this without actually sitting over a corn pile, which is crazy to me because
I hate hunting deer around corn, and they become different.
They do. 100%. They definitely can. So certain deer, and certain deer don't, but certain deer can be very susceptible to a 50-pound bag of corn. Yeah. And I know
I use it and don't use it. I use it in certain ways that may not be sitting over it.
Yeah. Just kind of like having a food source in there.
Yeah. So it's a tool.
Yeah, but it definitely can be.
I'm
a corn guy.
Lay it heavy, baby.
I do too. I pile that thing up.
Drop the tailgate. Dump the whole clutch on it.
I shot my Ohio deer. He was mid bite of corn when I shot him this year and the one last year. I mean, it's not everyone's style, and I'm not asking for it to be everybody's style.
Yeah.
You don't have to agree with it. There's a lot of people that don't. There's a lot of people that do. It's just we're hunting, man. Like, people need to just enjoy hunting. Enjoy it however you want to enjoy it.
Do your thing.
Yeah, you don't need to. No one's telling you to sit.
What's the biggest pile of corn you've ever put down?
I used to put out when I was hunting that 170-inch deer. I had a cop.
Yeah.
He might have been payback, him shooting that buck for me making him do this. I actually sent him like $200. I was out of town for Christmas. And I was like, dude, I need corn out bad. And he, in the middle of a snowstorm, took like 1,200 pounds of corn or something like that.
Really?
Some crazy amount of corn, and dumped it for me in that bottom. And it was disgusting. Don't ever do that.
How many pounds?
1,200, I think.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, I don't usually. What I'll do now is I'll do, like, especially now that I'm out of state, I'll probably do, if I got a spot I really want to feed, 200, and I'll just try to get to it whenever I can. Like, the way I look at it is, this is an all year thing. I can't feed in Ohio all year. So if I just sacrifice it and say I'm gonna do 1 day trip, like I'm gonna go up in the morning, and I did this when you shot Kimbo. I went up and went back home in the same day. Yeah. But like, if I just go up, put the corn out, go home once a week, I'm only gonna do it like 10 times tops. If I just do it like that, and it'll be worth it when I'm sitting behind a 180-inch deer.
Well, you're like a T-Bone. T-Bone.
Oh, absolutely.
Owns it.
I think me and T-Bone would be. Oh, I love his.
Owns it. If you ain't baiting, you're waiting. Yeah,
I think me and T-Bone would be good buddies. He followed me on Instagram.
You're in that T-Bone vibe for sure.
T-Bone followed me on Instagram.
Love that guy.
I called Tristan. I was like, bro, T-Bone just followed me on Instagram.
Dude, T-Bone is one of the most genuinely good-hearted persons that you will ever meet. Like it. Genuinely.
I like the owning the baiting thing.
Well, he's from the South.
Yeah, it's normal.
And in the South, baiting is as normal gets.
You know who else owns it?
Who?
Chris
B?
Yeah. He don't care at all.
I think I've seen a couple where he's...
Oh, yeah, he just throws like a 50-pound, 100-pound pile just right there. Yeah, him and the bone collector guys for the most part own it. But, some people do, some people don't. It's all in preference.
Yeah, I mean, my thing at the end of the day is do what makes you happy. Do your thing.
That's the thing, dude. We're all here for such a short time. Like, I've watched, I'm sure we'll get to it here soon, but I watched what happened to both my parents. Like, I ain't got time to be worried about what someone thinks about me putting a pile of corn. If you don't like it, don't like it.
So we can transition over to that now. So you grew up hunting.
Yes. Yeah. I grew up hunting. I hunted my whole life.
Originally from Virginia.
Yep. Originally from Virginia. Just right between Williamsburg and Richmond, a little town called New Kent County.
Yeah.
So I'm sure some people from New Kent will be listening. So shout out to you. But from a small town in New Kent
25
County.
People there.
Yeah, all 25 people
in that town.
in that town. It's a small town. Yeah, it wasn't a lot of people. Like my high school, I didn't end up graduating from there. I actually transferred out to a private school for sports. But I think my graduating class, if I stayed there, would have been like 300. So it was not big, but we were pretty close to Williamsburg, pretty close to Richmond.
Yeah.
A lot of big, typical, like, very southern town, like pine trees everywhere, very southern culture.
Yeah.
So
you have two brothers?
Two brothers. Yep. Thomas and Shane. I'm the middle one. I got a younger one and an older one. So Shane's still there. Thomas is down in Florida. And
so take me through, I mean, your dad took you guys hunting. That's kind of how y'all got introduced to it.
Yeah, we did. We never owned a lot of land. We never really owned much of any land. My dad was a tree guy. He came from nothing, like dirt, like nothing. Mom came from a wealthier family, still not super wealthy, but a wealthy family.
Yeah.
They're both from the area. My dad, we started hunting. It was a lot of like permission stuff, like. He did tree work, so these guys would, hey, I'll do, cut this tree down for you. Let me and my kids come hunting for gun season. We never bow hunted. My dad had a cheap old crossbow. We'd shoot one out the backyard. And we lived in like 5 acres. We'd shoot one off the back porch every now and then. If a doe came up, started eating honeysuckle, we'd try to kill it. But we never bow hunted. My dad would muzzleloader hunt some. My brother would muzzleloader hunt some, but I never really muzzleloader hunted. I was a shotgun guy. Mm-hmm. 12 gauge, buckshot. Put a pack of dogs in the woods and shoot the deer running in front of it. It was no 140-inch this, nothing. You just shot the deer and killed everything. And that's how it started. Never even thought about bow hunting until college. But But yeah, we just started with dogs and shotguns. No rifles. I've shot one deer with a rifle with Catman 2 years ago. I've never killed a deer with a rifle outside of that. So all shotguns.
So then take me through, I guess when stuff kind of started to happen, I guess if you were college time frame.
Yeah. So let's see. So for me, it was always like football, basketball. I was an athlete. I wanted to play, in college. So I got recruited by some smaller schools. I also got recruited by Liberty University. So the goal was, I was like, all right, I'm going to go to Bluefield College in West Virginia. It was a small NAIA school. I had a small scholarship there, took that, and I was going to get my grades up, and then I was transferring to Liberty. I was going to walk on there and then play there. So go to Bluefield. This is 2017. Drive out there. September rolls around. Dad's in like Maine or something like. Yeah, I think he was in Maine. He gets a call from my mom, and she's like, hey, just to let you know, I just went to the doctor. They did my blood work. Something's going on with my blood count, like my blood cell count or something like that. It's like really low. I think it was like our white blood cells are really low. It could be either like lupus, something else, or cancer. So my dad calls me. He's like, hey, just give you a heads up. This is what's going on. You might need to come home. So I'm like, okay. 2 days later, he calls me back and he's like, hey, you don't need to come home. You'll be fine. Like, we're going to go to the doctor. Don't even worry about it. Like, just you focus on football, focus on school. You're good. So I was like, all right, that's fine. So maybe like I don't know. The timeline's tough, but 3 days, something like that. A few days later, Dad calls me and he's like, hey, you're going to actually want to come home. And me being naive and young, I didn't think anything. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'll come home. Sure. Whatever. I didn't think anything of it. And so I come home and I remember like going to sleep in my bed, waking up. Mom was at the hospital. She had a surgery. Once again, naive, didn't think anything of it. I was just like, oh, they're just doing surgery, whatever. I believe that's when they did the surgery. But anyway, she was in the hospital. So I go to the hospital and I remember the room we were in. And my dad's like, all right, we got to go ahead and talk about some stuff. It's like your mother has stage 4 colon cancer. And at the time I was just like, okay, what does that mean? They were like, I can't remember. I feel like they'd already done the surgery. And so he was like, they did surgery. They couldn't take anything out. So usually they do surgeries, they'll pull the tumor out, hit you with some chemo. Hopefully you're good to go in 6 months or whatever, and then just kind of stay on it. He's like, the doctor's been doing surgery for 10 years on this stuff and has never gone in and not been able to take it out, or at least a portion. They could not take any of it out. So at that point, he's like, we're going to fight it. We're going to do chemo. Everything's going to be all right. We're going to be good to go. I think very quickly at that point, I decided, I was like, all right, I'm coming home every weekend I can. I'm going to spend as much time with her as possible. In my mind, I feel like I remember it being very like, hey, she's going to make this. We're going to be fine. It's going to be all right.
Optimistic.
Yeah, very optimistic. Dude, very quickly, you start to realize this is not good. Like, this is bad. And it's beatable. Colon cancer, and I did a lot of research on it. It's a very beatable cancer. It's like it's like the second or third most curable cancer behind like breast cancer and probably prostate cancer. It's a very curable cancer. But that's if they catch it quick enough. If they don't catch it quick enough, it can be really tough. But very quickly realized this is pretty rough. This is going to be a rough situation. So she started doing chemo. I started coming home every weekend I could. I'd play a football game. And then it would be 6 o'clock. It might be 9 o'clock. It'd be 6 to 9 o'clock at night. And I'd get in the car. I'd drive 5.5 hours home. I'd spend Sunday with her, Monday with her, get back in the car Monday night, drive back. And it was rough, man. She wasn't eating. Chemo is brutal on a person, and they had to go in. They did a feeding tube because she was starving to death. So by December, this is September. By December, she was pretty much starving to death. They did the feeding tube. That helped a lot. The insurance agency that my mother owned, the guy who runs. We have an exclusive deal. We have an exclusive with a company called McNeil & Company in New York. The guy who runs that, Dan McNeil, is one of, business-wise, you can deal with him in business, whatever. He's one of my favorite people just because of how he has treated me and my family when all this stuff started. He owns a private jet. My mom and dad, they eventually decided to do MD Anderson. And so when they decided that, it was like, hey, we're gonna have to get on a plane and go to Texas. Dan would send his private jet to Richmond. They would get on the private jet, and then he would fly them on his own dime. And God knows how much that cost, and send them to Houston. He would have the jet waiting for them there to come back. And so he pretty much loaned my parents' private jet. They used it 3 or 4 times, but as time went on, she was getting scans. They realized not only was it colon cancer from the jump, they thought it was only colon cancer. It was lung, it was liver. At that point, I think we kind of knew, we were like, this is bad. Like, this probably ain't going to go how we want it to go. We can pray, but probably ain't going to go good. So, she started doing treatments in Houston. I remember her coming back one time and I think she ate a burger or something. And we were just like, oh, that's amazing. It's like the greatest news. Like, maybe she's getting better. But it would just immediately behind it would just be like terrible news. Be like, I'm not eating. I don't want to eat. I don't want to do anything. The cancer's getting bigger. It's getting worse. So time goes on. I remember I was sitting in the parking lot. I get a call from my mom, and she's crying. And they're about to get on the private jet to come back from Houston. And she said the doctor wants to stop chemo. She's giving me 2 months to live. And I think we're going to go ahead and stop. We'll do like radiation or something, but we're going to stop chemo. They don't want us. They said, I just need to get comfortable. So at that point, I just remember breaking down in the parking lot, and spring break was the next week. And I said, I've always lived like my motto has been like, don't worry. Like, family is really, really important, and don't take money. Don't take anything over. Like don't have any regrets. You do not want to have a regret when your parents go, because my mom had regrets when my grandfather died. Don't have regrets. Like, just don't do it. She always hated certain things, I guess. So I made sure, I was like, I'm out. I'm not going to school. I'll stay the rest of the week. But as soon as class lets out, I'm in my car. I'm going back to Richmond, and I'm staying there until she passes away. So that's what I did. I told my teachers that they knew what was going on, but I was like, here's the situation. I was like, can you guys like just bear with me? And they're like, yeah, you don't even worry about doing schoolwork. Like, we'll take care of you. We'll figure it out when you get back. Like, just go home. So I went home expecting to stay probably about 2 months. And it was about 3 weeks. Mom goes to the hospital. They do more scans. And my dad said, and people here will probably, understand what this looks like. They did a scan of her lungs, and it looked like someone had taken a gun with birdshot and shot her lungs. And that's all the tumors, just little teeny tumors all over her lungs. And that was like Monday or something. She was in the hospital from like Saturday to Wednesday, something like that. I have a Snapchat on my phone still of her at home. Hospice comes in, gets set up. She's home on a Wednesday. As I remember, getting out of the shower, and she's like, hey, let me show you. Once again, so naive, I was so young. She's like, let me show you how to order Lacey's dog food, our dog. Like, how to order the dog food. I was just thinking, I don't know what I was thinking. But she was preparing. She was literally preparing for her to be gone. She knew it was coming very soon. And she was ready. Like, I think she'd come to, mom was a very strong Christian. She was right with God. She was ready. Like, she knew it was coming. I think she was almost maybe even happy to an extent, because she'd been through so much, dude, so much. And I can't even describe it. It would take me hours to describe this stuff. And before I was like, hold up, let me go do something real quick, and I'll help you. And when I came back, she was asleep. I was like, all right, I'll do it in the morning. We woke up to push snow. My dad did snow push, like he pushed snow too. We woke up to push snow at like 5 a.m. She had a fever. So we're like, all right, she's got a fever. This is probably it. So we canceled all the snow stuff, came back home, called the hospice people. They came. I remember they gave us a list, and they're like, these are all the symptoms of death. This is 2 weeks out. This is a week out. This is a day out. This is hours out. And I remember reading stuff like their eyes would be real glazed over, stuff like that, or they breathe like a fish out of water. And I was like, and her eyes were glazed over. And I think that was like a day or two out. And she had a fever. She wasn't really awake. She didn't know what was going on. I remember Dad let us come in. He said, I want y'all to say something to her, like whatever it was. And like, I was with Kelsey at the time. I remember telling her, I was like, I'm going to be all right. I got Kelsey. I'm going to marry Kelsey one day. We were probably like 3 months into being together. And so we all talked to her, and then we left. And then she actually woke up like the second half of the day. Like she was very to it, but that was like an energy surge. They have energy surges. People have energy surges right before they die. Like they'll get up like, I gotta clean. I gotta do the dishes. I gotta like do this, do that. It was the craziest thing. I was like, this is insane. Like just 2 hours ago, she looked like she was about to die. Now she's up, like wanting to walk around, and we can't let you get up. Like you've got to lay down. Like, so it gets to the point, it's like maybe 5, 6 o'clock, and she's in so much pain, dude. I'm just screaming. You'd think somebody was getting murdered in the house, like screaming, and call the doctor. Like, hey, we need like something. Whatever you have for us isn't working. So he found morphine. This shows how bad the pain was. He found morphine like up the roads. Me and Kelsey get in the car, run out there, get morphine. Come back, takes morphine, nothing. Like, just didn't do anything. So call the ambulance. They come get her, take her to the hospice center in Richmond that I think they just tore down. And we put her there, and they immediately give her like the strongest stuff they have, and it puts her into like pretty much a sleep. And that was that night. She pretty much went to sleep. They said it could be hours. At this point, we knew it's done. There's nothing left. It could be hours. It could be weeks. That's what they said. And so we go home. My dad stays there. He calls us at 3 a.m, and he's like, "Hey, he's like, y'all should probably come up. Like they're saying it's about to happen. She's probably gonna die soon." So we went up. Me and my older brother stayed back. He didn't want to experience, which I don't blame him. Me and my younger brother went up with Kelsey, and watched her die. Yep, she died. I think she died at 5. I think it was like 5:21. And it was the craziest thing. And yep, she died right there. And then nothing can prepare you for that. Like you're sitting there, and like a nurse comes in, and they feel her pulse, and they're like, after I think it's like 60 seconds, if they don't feel a pulse, she literally goes 5:21, time of death. And we sat there for maybe 10 minutes, if that. They walked out that door, and that was it. They wheel her down and do whatever. Like, crazy. Like, just insane. And I just remember we were in that car. It was still dark outside. We were in my Honda Civic. No, I don't know if I had the Honda Civic. I think I had the Honda Civic. I think we were in my Honda Civic. And my dad sit in the passenger seat. Kelsey, Thomas were in the back. I was driving. And we're going down 64, leaving Richmond. You can see Richmond in the background. And it's just like, what the hell just happened? Like, this is crazy. My dad had Life 360 on his phone, which is like a tracking app. And her phone, he had her phone, but her phone location was still saying the hospital. And he was like, we got to turn around. She's still there. Like, we got to turn around. I'm like, Dad, she's gone. We got to go. So we go home. We get to the house. I just remember Dad being curled up, just bawling in his bed with her Bible. And I was just like, Jesus, dude, this sucks. So, I remember, went to sleep that day and took a nap and started kind of figuring everything out. And then from there, it was like, well, now we got to move on and, kind of push on. And that's what we did. We figured it all out for a while. Things started to get better until it kind of got worse again. So
I cannot imagine that amount of pain.
It's tough. It's tough. Like the thing too is like, I try to find like the bright spots in it. It's like, at least that was the way it was. It's not necessarily supposed to happen that early, but like kids are supposed to bury their parents. Like my grandma has to bury almost every one of her kids. There's almost one left of like 5 or something. I don't know. It was a bunch. She's buried every one of her kids except for one. Yeah. And she's about to bury another one. And it's like, that, dude, that's rough, man. That's rough. That's not how we're wired. We're not wired. We're supposed to bury our kids. It's not how it's supposed to go. You're supposed to bury your parents. You're not supposed to bury your kids. So do find that, that is like a kind of some sort of light in it. Is like, at least, yes, it was early. It was supposed to be, that was how it's supposed to go.
Yeah. my grandfather lived into his 90s. He's World War II vet, just probably one of the toughest men I know, and he buried 2 of his sons, two of my uncles.
Yep.
And I could tell that at that point his old age was a burden.
Oh yeah, 100%. You talk to any old person, like really old person, they're like, I'm ready to go whenever. Yeah. I don't have all my friends. Like I've talked to many old people. Like my friends are dead. Like I've had to bury family. Like that. I'm tired. Yeah, it's crazy, dude. It's crazy because we sit here now at young ages. We think I don't think there's ever a time where I could get to the point where I'm like I'm good. Mm-hmm. But you can get to that point.
Yeah, and that is the very scary and real part about life is that it's just you never know what tomorrow has in store.
It's the scariest thing, dude.
And it's like everything could change in the blink of an eye,
dude. In a heartbeat. And it's like that's I think what freaks me out the most, going through what I've gone through. And I'm a Christian. I believe in God. I have a relationship with God. I know that I'm going to heaven when I die. But it's still scary. Like people are like, oh, you should be. No, it's scary, dude. It's just not something you want to still be, especially being young. We have so much we want to do. We want to have kids. We want to like.
Death? You mean death?
Yeah, death. It is. It's a freaky thing, dude. I struggle with it bad. It's freaky. And I think everyone does, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, it is a scary thing. And I'll admit, like I've even thought, at times curious, like, man, how am I going to go? What's that going to be like?
You want it to be peaceful, but a lot of times it ain't.
Yeah.
It's scary, dude. And it's like, you know, we're here. We love, like, I think about it, like, I love hunting. Like, I love it so much. Like, but, you know, one day I'm not going to hunt anymore. Like, that's freaky. It's freaky.
Yeah.
You know, you love life so much. You know, all these, like, or like, what really hits when we go on trips, like we go to NWTF, we go on like these hunts together at Velvet Season, like that stuff, it's gonna end one day.
Yeah,
it sucks.
You never know when the last one's gonna be.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, your mom passes.
Yes, March 23rd, 2018.
Which is not that long ago.
No, I think we're 2020. Yeah, it just was
6 years.
6 years, which is crazy.
Blink of an eye.
Yeah 6 years.
So take me from there.
Okay, so go back to school. I at this point had a girlfriend who I really liked. She lived in Lynchburg, Virginia, which worked out perfect because I wanted to go to Liberty. So immediately 2 days before my mom died, Dad asked if I wanted to work for the insurance agency. He wanted to have a backup plan in case that ever, you know, he wanted to sell it or something. So I was like, yeah, I'll do that. So moved to got good grades, went back to Bluefield, finished, transferred to Liberty. At that point, I started watching YouTube. I'm sure I was watching you guys a little bit. I was watching The Hunt in Public a little bit. It was 2018. So transferred to Liberty. And I'm like, I don't want to play football. I want to hunt. So passed my insurance exam. Because of that, I said, you know what? I'm going to buy a crossbow to like reward myself. Bought a $300 crossbow off Craigslist. Joined a club, started hunting. It was terrible. But started hunting, you know, was living life, was dating Kelsey, you know, at an apartment in Lynchburg. Dad was building a house as like a memorial for my mom. He started to kind of want to have like a partner. So he started, you know, talking to some people and was trying to meet some people. And life was just going on, you know, it's like, you know, trying to rebuild back and figure everything out. So Dad buys 40 acres, builds a house. I was getting to the point now at this time where I was pretty serious with Kelsey. January of 2019 comes. Dad finishes the house. I'm a year in with Kelsey. Still at Liberty. Go pass around to the summertime. I start talking about wanting to propose to Kelsey. And September comes. Dad's doing his thing. He's going hunting. He went to Kansas on a muzzleloader hunt. Didn't kill anything. Goes to New Mexico. Kills a bear. So that's the start of September as he kills a bear. He's got this girl he's serious with. He's been doing a lot of fishing. Just trying to figure everything out. I think he's fixing to propose to this girl. And late September comes. I'm getting ready to start a hunt in Ohio. At this point, I was in a lease in Ohio. And
this is maybe a year and a half after your mom.
It's about a year and a half. Okay. Yeah. We're a year and a half out from mom. So everybody's starting to kind of,
try to find their new sense of normal.
And I get so I'm at Liberty. I'm doing physical education. And they have this thing called convocation. And I'm doing convocation, and I get a call September 27th. I get a call from my brother. And the music's playing. Brett Favre's about to speak. And I'm like, I go to the bathroom, but the music's so loud. I'm like, what's going on? He's like freaking out. He's like, dude, I couldn't even make out what he was saying. He was like, Dad, this something. I'm like, what is he talking about? And then I finally make out, and he's like, Dad got hit by a tree. He's not moving. And I was like, oh yeah, I thought he laughed. I was like, oh yeah, that's real good joke. Yeah, funny. Haha, whatever. It's like, and he's like, dude, I'm not kidding. Like, I'm not joking. Like, what are you talking about? So like, hold up. So I like run outside where I can hear. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, Dad just got hit by, he's bawling. He's like, Dad just got hit by a tree. He's not moving. He won't answer us. Like I think he's dead. I think something's wrong. He's like, I was like, call the ambulance. Like, get people there. He's like, they're coming. Like, we've already called them. He's like, oh, we don't know what to do. I was like, just step away. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't either. Like, so immediately starting to cry. Like, I run to my car, and
so he called you like as it was happening,
literally right after it happened.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure it out. I'm like, all right, he's, I think he might have been like, oh, the ambulance is here. Let me go. Let me take care of this. So the ambulance gets there. I call Kelsey. I'm like, Kelsey, Dad's been in an accident. I don't think he's gonna make it. You gotta get out of work and come get me. So I'm in my car. I'm just freaking out. I had this kid's bag in my car, like one of my buddies at the time. I took it into the library. I texted him like, dude, your bag's in the library. I got to go. I got an emergency. So we're there in the parking lot. Kelsey gets there. I'm like freaking out. I'm calling people. And it's like Shane's calling me. He's like, dude, this isn't good. He's like, they're doing CPR. Like, I don't think he's alive. I think he's dead. And he's freaking out. Where everyone's just so frantic, bro. It's so frantic. And I get in the car, and I'm trying to figure out what happened. Shane's like, I was cutting a tree. I told Dad we needed to use the excavator, not the excavator, like the bobcat or something. Like, we need to use the bobcat to push this tree over. Like, it was unsafe. I didn't feel like it was safe. When I cut the tree, it spun weird. It hit another tree. I think that tree might have broke, or the top of the tree they cut broke and came down and hit Dad in the head. And when it was coming down, my brother was in the way. My dad, he said, the last thing you heard my dad say was, get the hell out of the way. And he pushed my brother out the way. And when he pushed my brother out the way, it hit my dad in the head. And so I'm driving home, and I remember getting off on the exit to my apartment, and Shane calls me. He goes, they just pronounced him dead. And I just lost it, dude. I was like, what? Yeah, that was rough. So I get to the apartment, and, at that point, it's like I'm going back to New Kent, when I got to New Kent, I got there like 1 o'clock. He was still there at the job site. OSHA was there. They had to do an investigation. So they pronounced him dead on the scene. There was no, they couldn't do anything. And I'm happy they did. I didn't want them to do anything, because it's like, what are they going to do? Like, bring him back? He's just sit in a vegetated state for 10 years? Like, we're going to take care? No, I don't want that. I'd rather him be dead at that point. And that sounds harsh, but that's life. I don't want to. I know my dad. My dad would not have wanted to be like that. My dad was a very strong person. So we go home and figure it out from there. And now we got businesses. We got all the crap that comes with someone dying, dude. It's like, money. You got to figure it. Now it's like, what do we do? So the next day, we went to New Kent. All of our friends and family were there. We figured it out. We tried to make whatever light of the situation we could, and then we moved on to we went home, and I went back to Lynchburg, and that was it happened on a Friday, September 27th, 2019, and called Jennifer the next day, who was my office manager, and I said, hey, I guess I'm gonna own this now. So, we made sure most of my money was coming from my dad. So we said, hey, let's go ahead and let's up my salary. It's time to figure this thing out, So we did. We made sure where I was making enough money to live, where I didn't have to, worry about, being on someone else's salary. And then we figured it out. You know, we buried my dad. We worked with my grandma. She was like, he's got to be buried. I don't want to cremate him. I was like, he wants to be cremated. She said, I don't care. We got to bury him. I was like, all right, whatever. My dad didn't care. So we cremated my dad, or we buried my dad. We cremated my mom. We put her ashes in the casket. I think 2 weeks later we buried him. And then, we just moved on from there.
So they were buried together?
Yeah, they're buried together. Yeah, they're buried together. She was cremated. He was buried. And, we just, figured everything out. We had to, at that point, too, it was like you almost didn't have the time. Like, we had the time to mourn mom more because we weren't dealing with the things that come behind a death. But now it's like we had to figure it out. Like, there's debts to pay off. There's money to figure out where this goes, where that goes. There's assets. I mean, there was 4 businesses. So it's like, all right, Jason, you're taking over the insurance agency. Shane, you're taking over the tree company. Thomas, you're working. I think he was working at the tree company for a little bit. And then, so then it was like this year-long battle of having to figure out, like, different, like, divvying everything up correctly and doing all this right and doing this, that, lawyers, leeches. Dude, people, when they blood in the water, bro, they're on you. They are on you. If they know there's money involved, good luck. Mm-hmm. You're going to lose some friends. And that was life. I knew it was. And I proposed to Kelsey in January of 2020. We got married and moved to Ohio, and that's kind of where that story picks up. But yeah, dude, it was a rough year and a half. But you figure it out. I mean, you just figure you have to figure it out. I'm just so thankful that my parents were Christian. My dad was a Christian. He was hardcore Christian, as hard as you could be about it. Loved it and loved God. And I definitely think they're in heaven now. I know they're in heaven now. And, it's just it was tough, man. It was really, really tough. But he saved my brother's life.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say is, I mean, your dad.
He saved my brother. My brother would be dead. And Shane, I'm sorry I'm saying this, and you know it, but my brother would be dead right now if my dad wasn't. My dad didn't do that. So my dad died a hero. He died a hero. Now, I remember sitting there, and I was like, I want people to know what my dad did. Now, I want people to see my dad as a hero. And I hope that if people take something away from, like, even hearing this part of the story, is that they can understand that, like, my dad, Eric Whitlow, was a hero. And he died a hero. So, like, he died. He gave his life.
He gave his life for his son. And, man, as your friend now, it breaks my heart to hear that. I'm sorry that you had to go through that. It's not fair.
It's tough, but the way I look, it's like everybody's got to go through something. And that's like my dad taught me when I was young. He's like, dude, life's gonna kick you in the ass. Like, you got to figure it out. You got to get up. It's not gonna be easy. There's nothing that's gonna be easy about life. You just got to get up and do it. And it's been true. Especially that period of my life, dude. It's knock you down, just get up, figure it out, move forward, survive, and just keep going.
Do you think your dad was ready to be with your mom?
100%. Yeah, dude. My dad was. I think he was tired, dude. He loved my mom more than anything. Like, he wanted to be with her. Like, it was as much as, like, I remember thinking at the time, as sucky as this is, like, right now he's probably exactly where he wants to be. Like, he's with mom. Like, that was what he always wanted, was just to be with her.
I think there's things that happen on this earth that we will never be able to comprehend or understand.
Yep.
And for something as horrible like that to happen to your mom, and then a little over a year later, your dad, something like that happens to your dad, but he's a hero in the process.
Absolutely.
And they're now reunited.
100%.
It's horrible and really sad and tragic, but there's almost a beauty to it in a sense that they're together.
100%. And that was all I think he ever wanted after mom died. It was just like
to be with her.
Just to be with her and like feel her again. And like, yeah, dude, he was devastated when mom died. I mean, I've never seen my dad like that.
Yeah.
My dad was a strong dude. You talk to anybody who knew my dad. He was big. He was strong. My dad was a hard guy. He was a really hard guy. He was hard on us. He was hard on everybody.
I've seen the pictures you posted. He looks like he's a pretty burly dude.
6'3", like 360 probably. Yeah. Big dude, hands bigger than you could imagine. Like the dude, he was bigger than life in a lot of ways. Like just who he was, everybody loved him. Some people didn't like him, but a lot of people loved him, and he loved Mom. So I think when he died, it was like there was a comfort in that. Like I think he's right where he wants to be, and he could have. If my brother would have died that day, dude.
Oh man.
I think I would have lost 3 people because my dad wouldn't have made it.
Yeah.
My dad would not have made it. He wouldn't have.
Yeah, and it's hard to say like, oh, well, that's good. But
yeah.
But again, like there's things that will happen in this world we'll never understand.
That's right.
But there is a little sense of peace to take away from that.
Definitely.
I think that, well, one, you never know what someone else is going through.
No, not at all.
You don't know what living in their shoes is like.
Not at all.
And that's why I think it's really important to not cast judgment.
Absolutely.
On people so quickly, because you don't know why they're acting the way they are. They could have
no clue, man.
Just lost their mom or dad or going through something. And if you and I were to not become friends, I never would have known that about you.
Yeah.
And I think that it's pretty amazing to then go back to the beginning of this podcast where you posted a TikTok.
Yeah, it's insane.
Something so small.
Yeah.
One little action, one little thing that you did.
Yep.
You could have easily just been like, I'm not going to post this.
And I wouldn't know any of y'all, most likely. But also,
Slade sends you the message.
Part of me thinks like you end up in places in life you're supposed to end up at.
Yes.
Like even if I would have posted that, part of me thinks like I would still be here, just in a different way. Like I would have still known, maybe not. I just think God puts you in places. He prepares you for things. Like I think both my parents dying, he's prepared me for life. He's just prepared. It's just a way to be prepared for life. Like I'm here now, and nothing can break me because I've been through about as worst you could go through. But you go through these things, and like to know that you're strong enough to get on the other side. Like I struggle bad now, and we've talked about it last night. We struggle really bad, like with I guess I hate calling it PTSD because I don't want to like make it seem like I've been through a war. You know what I mean? Like there's people that have been through real stuff, like in the Middle East and fighting in the military that do have PTSD, and it's maybe a different type of it. But like I feel like
it's super valid to say what you're dealing with is a form of that.
Yeah, and like I do feel like I've been through a war. I feel like I've been through the war. Like I feel like my mind, I go through a war with almost like the devil. Like the devil's trying to like make me, and like I'm just on the back end, and I go through these spurts, and I'm hoping I'm on the back end of one now. But like before Nashville, I was struggling, dude. Like it's not like I wouldn't call it depression. My mind just plays tricks on me, man. It's like, what if you have cancer now? Like what if you're sick now? Like what if you get in a car tomorrow and you die? Like, dude, I struggle with it a lot, and people don't know it. Kelsey knows it, but I pushed through it, and like but I think God prepared me for that too, because like I think a lot of people go through that in different ways. Like, where am I going to get my next paycheck from? There's a lot of people in our country right now that are sitting here like, I don't know how I'm going to feed my kid tomorrow, and like. So I think God prepared me for that. But the passing of my parent, I can't, like, I know now, like, nothing's gonna break me, because I've been through it, But I go through these like wars in my head, where and I think it's just like a PTSD type of deal, or just watch this stuff, it's tough.
Psychological things are really, really hard to overcome.
Yeah, very.
I've gone through depression, and it's a dark thing.
It's just rough, dude. It's rough. It can be really nasty. Yeah. You're thinking, I don't know how anyone could kill themselves, or or go through something like that where they're that far in where they're like thinking about committing suicide and going. But you start to deal with it, and you can understand years and years and years of a mind being broken can maybe cause something like that.
Yeah.
That's tough to talk about. It's heavy subjects. Probably every one of us and everybody listening to this knows somebody that's gone through that and has committed that act. And it's tough. So it's tough to talk about, but it's you got to almost talk about it.
You have to. And it would surprise you who may have had those or maybe having those thoughts. And the reason I say that is I'm one of them.
Yeah.
I've had those thoughts.
For sure.
Those self-harm thoughts. And it's not even like something that I would say like I would ever do, would ever plan on doing.
For sure.
But the thoughts, and it is like you're saying, it's like the devil's thoughts.
It's
like
the devil, 100%.
Those thoughts are there. It's ignoring them, but it's like they're there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a very vulnerable thing for me to even admit to. But
it's the devil, and I truly believe it 100%. We're in, we get in these, like, the devil tries to attack you, and you've got to stay
keep
strong,
going.
man. You got to push it and just roll.
You got to keep going
and just
fight it. That's where I would leave off with this and say, like, I think that you telling your story is going to really help people listening that may be in that place to, like, keep going, because you went through hell twice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
You went through hell twice.
Yeah.
And something as stupid as posting a TikTok, getting a DM from this guy, you hang out with Slade, we hang out, and now you fast forward, and it's like, I look at you as one of my closest friends.
Same to you. Yeah.
And the group, the family dynamic that we've sort of created, that you're a big part of, and
unreal.
Kelsey too, your wife now. It's just like, I hate to throw a cliche, but like the night is kind of darkest just before the dawn. It's like, dude, you're in a dark place. One little thing
100%.
happens, and it's like, I would hope and feel, and I know that you're in a better place now.
Definitely. And like I told Slade, when we've talked about this podcast for a while, and for me, it has meant like getting my dad's story out there.
Yeah.
Because you guys do have a platform, and people listen to this, and I want people to know about what my dad did, what my family's gone through, what my mom's gone through, what my dad went through. I want people to know that. I want people to be encouraged by that. I want people to see my dad. I'd always said it, and I said it, my dad. I didn't want him to die without people. Like, I didn't want people to not know who he was. I felt like the world should know about what my dad did and about what we've gone through. But like I called Slade. We were talking about this at the Velvet Hunt. We were like, we need to do a podcast. You want to talk about this? And dude, there's so much emotion. You don't know this. And like, I remember I sent a text. We usually always do send some pretty, like, kind of sentimental texts after those types of trips and camps and stuff. And Slade called me, and I guess he could just tell, because I'm a very emotionless person. I try not to show my emotions. And Slade called me, dude. I was just bawling, crying. I probably cried like my eyes out for like an hour on the way home from that hunt. And it just like
this past year.
Yeah. Because I just feel like it's changed my life. Like that TikTok has changed my life completely. Like, being able to be with you guys has meant the world to me. And like, to be able to find friendships like I found is just like, and when you came to Ohio, there was people that were like, bro, you need to stay away from that guy. Like, you don't, like, you that guy's trouble. And like, they didn't know you. None of them knew you. Mm-hmm. And being friends with you, being friends with Slade, being friends with all Cheeto, BJ, Tristan, if I'm Zach, if I'm forgetting anyone, I'm sorry. Like, everybody, I know I'm forgetting people, but like every single person that we're friends with, it's changed my life 100%. Because I was in a dark spot, man. When Slade when I ran into Slade, I was in a rough place. And me and Kelly, we had just moved to Ohio. We were in an apartment infested with bed bugs and paying crazy money for nasty apartment, because they didn't tell us. Like, we were in such a rough place. That's not the same apartment you stayed at, by the way.
I was gonna ask.
not the same place. Not the same place. But we met Slade. I met Slade, and he introduced me to this whole world and everybody, and it's changed my life. It's changed Kelsey's life. And we have like people that we're friends with for life. And you guys have been amazing to me.
It's a sense of family, and again, like, dude, if anybody listening to this that's heard the story and they're sitting there and they're in the trenches,
100%,
keep going.
Yeah, you're gonna be fine. Like,
it can be one little thing that leads to something amazing.
Absolutely.
And I've told a lot of friends that, because I've gone through a lot of things too, where like I'm in the middle of something and I don't see the full picture.
Yeah.
And there's a day coming,
100%,
when you will look back and you will maybe not fully understand.
Yeah.
But you will look back and be like, you know what? I am here.
Yep.
Because of what I went through.
Absolutely.
And it's made 100%. Me who I am.
100%. There's a light, man. There really is. You gotta just deal with it. You've got to figure it out. It doesn't matter. Just get it day by day. Yeah. That's what I did. I'd go to work, but when my dad was still alive, but right after my mom died, I'd go to work, and I told you this last night. I would go home. I would be in the house that my mom pretty much died in, and I just so depressed, dude. So depressed. I would turn The Office on. And I would watch The Office, and that gave me like some sense of joy. It was like a funny show. It gave me some sense of joy from like the time I got off work to the time I went to sleep, because I wasn't living with Kelsey at the time. I would visit her on the weekends. I just wanted to be with her so bad, but I had to work, and I was like, but just finding that little thing that made me happy, that gave me like a smile and made me laugh. Like I felt like 6 months. It was probably like 2 or 3, but to get through that, and then just and that was this summer. It was this summer. So it was like 3 months. Mm-hmm. And to get through that, and like I got on the other end of it, and I'm here now, and I have great friends that like we get to do so much together, and you guys have taken me on so many things, because you guys do get to experience so many cool things, and y'all have included me and like allowed me to be a part of it. Like just the stuff with mounting your deer, like that's huge for me. Like being able to do that, and like that means a world to me, because people look at you and Seek One and everything, and they see big deer, and they see something like that, and it helps me a lot. Just stuff like that. You risked like your biggest deer you've ever killed. You've been hunting for what, 20 years, 16? I don't know, something like that. Your biggest deer you ever killed, you said, dude, I'm gonna let this guy do it. He's been mounting deer for a year, but I'm gonna let him do it.
Yeah, I know. I took a leap of faith on you.
Yeah,
and you did extremely well. And
I appreciate it.
I think that, like for example, the actors in The Office, they would have no idea. They're just doing their job.
100%.
They have no idea how much The Office meant to someone like you. Yep. That it was just kind of like a refuge.
Absolutely.
And I'll share a story real quick. When we were at a show in Nashville, this guy came up to me, and he had just lost his dad, and he said that they used to watch Seek One episodes all the time.
Yeah.
And he said that in the hospital bed, as he died, they were watching. That was like the last thing they did was watching a Seek One episode together.
That's insane.
To us, at times, it feels like we're just doing our job.
Yep.
And then you hear something like that,
that's right,
and you realize like there's something bigger happening. Like there's a lot more meaning to the things we do. You never know how you're affecting someone on the other end.
It brings joy. I'm telling you, like, in something you guys will, I'm sure you'll see it as you guys get longer on the tooth and older into the game. You guys will start to see that, I think, more and more. You'll start to see stuff where people come to you and they say, like, me and my dad, like, that was my favorite part of like my childhood, was like being able to like wake up on a Saturday and turn on a Seek One episode and like watch you kill Kimbo, or watch Drew kill one of his bucks, or Kendall kill one of his deer, whatever it may be. That's gonna mean something, especially as y'all get further on and people start to get older, and like you're gonna hear that a lot more, and I think that's gonna mean a lot to y'all.
Well, my hope has always been that people take away a little bit of meaning to whatever they watch of us. I know that people are going to listen to this and take a very large message away with them of encouragement.
That's my hope. People.
So I appreciate you sharing your family story, your mom and your dad's story, your story. It's something I would never wish on anybody, but I do know that it's going to have a ripple effect through hopefully this podcast that it encourages a lot of people out there. If anyone's listening that's going through the trenches, like, dude, talk to somebody.
100%.
Anybody.
Yeah, anyone. Yeah, don't give up. There's an end to it, and there's a good end to it. You got to push through it, man. You have to. God's not going to give you a battle you can't take. You've got to be able just to keep going, keep pushing. As much as you might want to end it, you might want to stop it. Don't. Just roll with it. Figure it out.
It gets better.
You're in a war, and it's gonna get better, but you just gotta keep fighting, because it's gonna 100% will get better. Yeah. You've got to trust people that have been through it.
You just gotta keep going. Well,
100%.
Thank you, dude.
I appreciate it.
I love you, bro.
Thank you. I love you too, man. Thank you for letting me do this.
I will end this by giving your new taxidermy business a shout out. Whitlow's Wildlife Artistry.
That's it.
I've never really seen somebody master something so fast, and I think it's just because you're passion and dedication to it. You dove in hard.
100%. I did really hard.
But you have a pure talent.
I appreciate it.
I
appreciate it. It's gone well.
Taxidermy. And dude.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I've had good teachers, and it's been cool.
I trusted you with the biggest dear of my life.
You did. I know you were skeptical. By the way, anyone who's listening to this, Lee's cape went bad.
I know,
because
dude,
he was so skeptical.
Bad.
He gave me his velvet deer, and I did that, and it was pretty good. I mean, there's things I would change, but it was pretty good. We competed with it at NWTF, but
second place.
Yeah, I got second. Yeah, I got the second place ribbon,
which is a big deal.
Yeah, I thought it was cool, but he was really skeptical at Kimbo. He didn't know, and he took it home. The cape went bad, but I said, all's good. We'll figure it out. He finally trusted me with it. I think he was waiting to see the velvet deer. Saw the velvet deer, and it turned out really good. So I'm sure you guys will see that probably way before.
So I had my cape in the freezer in my basement, and the freezer went out. I went on like a 2-week, just hunting deal or whatever, just gone. And came back, and it had gone bad and rotted. I was devastated. And you took the time to like research and find a cape that matched him.
Pretty much the exact
He
cape.
looks identical.
Pretty much the exact cape. We just kind of took key points, forehead markings and color cape and, hair length and stuff. And thankfully I caped it out too. So
if y'all are looking for a taxidermist, you're in good hands with Jason.
Bring it on. Yeah, I think I'll probably try to get a freezer down here to Georgia, because I do take in a good bit of deer from Georgia. So
what's the easiest way they can reach out to you if they have a deer that you want to mount?
Instagram.
Or they want you to mount?
Yeah, you can go to Instagram. You can go to probably do my business page, the Whitlow's Wildlife Artistry, because I get some DMs on my other main page. But if you want to message me about a deer, Whitlow's Wildlife Artistry on Instagram. Facebook's the same thing. That's probably the quickest way to get a response.
WHITLEY. Or sorry. Whoa. Whitley.
Whitlow's WHITLOWS Wildlife Artistry. Whitlow's Wildlife Artistry. You can find it. Facebook's gonna be the quickest way, or call me. I got a website. My number's all over the place. You can call me, text me.
I don't know if you should have said that.
Don't call me.
They're gonna call you. Say, hey, buddy.
Text me. How about that? Text me. Whatever. But just reach out. And I'll take care of you. We'll figure it out. It does not matter where you're at.
I know you were nervous coming to this thing. We've gone almost 2 hours and 17 minutes.
2 hours and 17 minutes.
Yeah.
I figured it was closer to 2.
The video actually cut out. I only had like 1:40 on the card, and I was like, oh, that's plenty. But when you have good conversations like that,
it goes.
It just goes
2 hours.
2 hours.
Almost 2.5 hours.
Yeah, and you were nervous.
I was really. I got good about 10 minutes in. I was like, all right, we can do this. I've talked to Lee. I mean, we've had conversations on the phone for hours upon hours.
I'm sure this won't be the last time we do one of these.
Yeah, I'd love to do them, man.
People should not be surprised if they see you in some episodes.
Absolutely, I'd love to, man. I'd love to. A lot of deer to be killed. So.
Well, we got some stuff we got to do the rest of the day. We got to get to work.
You got to go Braves game or something.
Right? Yeah. Appreciate you sharing your story with us.
Man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It was good talking.
Yeah.
So
see you guys.